everybody. Welcome back to the Political Theater, everybody. Thank you guys for joining me this evening. I'm Walter Kurt. This is the Political Theater, weeknights at 9. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. We got a lot to talk about tonight. We got a lot to go over. But the most important thing we want to talk about is that it's now officially been 1 full year of President Trump in office. And it has been a very good year. It's been a very good year. So we're going to go through that. We're going to go through a lot of the wins. We're going to talk about some of the things I'd like to see change in this coming year. And obviously, we're going to go through a number of other stories that have happened today, along with some bad things that have happened today, along with some problems I have with, again, our useless Congress that constantly bothers me to the point that I can't stand them. But we'll go through all of that, and we'll also talk about a little bit of updates, what we're going to be doing with the Somali fraud investigation as we're going to be moving into this in the coming week. I've got some good guests coming in tonight here, guys. Before we do any of that, though, guys, make sure you guys share the space out. Make sure you share the link out if you guys are joining us on YouTube, Rumble, Substack, wherever you guys may be tuning in tonight. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate everyone who comes to this show. Make sure you guys leave me a comment down below. Make sure you guys put a comment there. So if you want any feedback, I always read all the comments. I try to read everything I can. If you guys subscribe to us on YouTube, on Substack, or Spotify or Apple, wherever you guys tune in, please leave me a comment. Tell me what you think about the show. I appreciate everybody chimes in. I want to know what you guys think about the show. And anybody who wants to comment in the show, you're more than welcome to leave a comment. I do read them throughout the space. But not only that, and I see Geyer Digital has now joined the show. Welcome, Geyer. Good to hear from you, buddy. There's anybody who wants to join the show. If you want to chime into the show and actually talk, you need to go to the X space, which is x.com. Go to @WCDispatch, and you can join the show and chime in yourself here very shortly. I'm going to bring up a co-host for this evening. Priya Patel is joining me this evening as co-host for the show. She's going to be hanging out with us tonight. We're going to talk about all kinds of things, and I want to hear from her on a bit on California issues because I'm going to be going out to California here very shortly. So I'm going to get her up onto the show now. Before you make sure you guys share the link out, we're just now getting rolling here. The other thing I want to talk about before we get into any other issues we want to go through is that I have a huge problem with the Senate right now because they have just decided to move forward with their appropriation minibus here. And the minibus that they're talking about is, it includes $5 billion for more refugee programs. Wonderful. What are these people doing? I don't understand what they're doing. They have no interest in paying attention to what the American people want. The Senate, to me, has been such a problem this year. Watching them be the old fossils that they are, they refuse to understand what time it is. They refuse to actually go with what the agenda is. They refuse to actually confirm most of Trump's appointees. It's kind of obnoxious to me to just watch these people act as if they have some sort of bone to pick, that they have some sort of important mission from their state. The only reason they're in office is because Trump's in office. He's the one who got most of these people elected. Chuck Grassley is another one of these people that everyone talks about. Chuck Grassley, they like Chuck Grassley, and I sort of like Chuck Grassley, but the problem I have with him is he's 10,000 years old. 10,000 years old, and he's out here saying he's not going to vote for the SAVE Act. This is the problem we have. The old GOP establishment is still living in a world where they hate Trump. Despite this great year of Trump in office, okay? It was a good year. There were problems, obviously. Sure, there's some problems, but at the end of the day, President Trump has done an incredible job with what he's been given, okay? He completely shut down the border. He has made sweeping changes to the executive branch. He has made sweeping changes to the way that money flows, USAID cut off. He's going after these people in as many ways as he possibly can. Obviously, there's other things that we would like to see done. Obviously, there's more that we would like to see done, a lot more. I think there's a ton of things that needs to be fixed, and specifically within the DOJ. Though I will say that the DOJ seems like they're moving pretty heavily on the stuff in Minnesota, which I'm very happy to see. But we'll see. To me, I hear them talk, and they better deliver because, as far as I'm concerned, the talk is cheap at this point. No one cares if you talk because it seems to me that you constantly have problems with this. So if they're not going to actually fix anything and actually go through this and actually do this, then I'm not going to be very impressed. They need to come up with something. They need to actually come up with something, and they need to actually fix some of these problems, and they need to arrest some of these people. Because obviously Don Lemon is one of these people that, going into a church crossed the line, and everybody knows that. Everybody agrees that Don Lemon crossed the line when he went into the church like that. But we need to see actual results. We need to see actual results. People need to go to jail. People need to be arrested. These things need to happen. That needs to happen immediately. Sorry here, guys. I'm going to bring Priya back up to the show. Looks like she dropped out for a second. But Don Lemon is, again, just one of these people that's one thing that I'd like to see done. But, what about all of the fraud that's been going rampant throughout the country? And the fact that they're still funding it from the Senate drives me nuts. I mean, how many of these people are in on it? But there was another story that came out today from Town Hall. They got a bombshell, undercover journalist reporting that they've got, there's immigration judges being bribed to the tune of $50,000 out of Ohio. That's a big story that came out today. That was a big one. And I'm not surprised by that at all, to be honest with you. I'm not. You think that these people aren't figuring out any way that they can grease the wheels within this system? Of course they are. That's of course what they're doing. They've been doing this for years. I guarantee you that we're gonna find more and more and more of this sort of stuff. And I think that the easiest way to figure this out is just go look and see. There was something that Elon Musk said at the beginning of this term when he said, well, how did these people make this money? People that work in the government, not necessarily just people like Nancy Pelosi, like the big names, but there are just random people that work within the government that are worth lots and lots of money. And where did that money come from? And I think those are the questions we need to start asking. And to me, the bigger part about all of it is we just need to figure out how to shut their money off. That's the only thing I really care about is cutting off the damn money, because it is the only thing that truly matters at the end of the day. None of this stuff that we do, even the stuff that Trump has done that has been good, it's not going to matter if we don't cut off the money, guys. It's not going to matter, because if someone comes back in the opposite way and we haven't fixed this in legislation, we actually haven't fixed this in Congress, then the same thing will happen again. They'll just turn the spigot right back on. They'll turn it right back on. I mean, that's what they're really doing now. They even claim the executive branch, what they did for their Office of Refugee Resettlement stuff is that they actually did write a memo a while back changing it so it doesn't go to NGOs anymore. Well, but then it goes to the states. In the blue states, what do the blue states do with it? They take it and they give it to NGOs. It's the same thing. There's no difference. Just because you moved it to be allocated by the states doesn't mean that you fixed the problem. What fixes the problem is changing the incentive structure. Removing the money out of the system is the way you do it. That's the way you fix the problem. But instead, we haven't really fixed the problem. We've just shifted it to somebody else to blame, which is not very helpful, because we know that these states are involved in fraud. We know that. And then on that specific note, we can bring Priya in on this, because you are very involved and understand what's going on with the fraud in California, which is where we're going to be headed soon. So welcome, Priya. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Walter. It's great to hear you.
Absolutely. Well, the California fraud, the fact that there's $5 billion still in this refugee program in California, to me, this is such an obvious problem for California, because everyone knows that California just funnels everything into the NGOs. So how is it going to help it any all if oh my God, the states are going to manage it? Well, that's good. That's great. Yeah, California's going to manage it. Wonderful.
Yeah, well, I mean, just even if on the mismanagement level, we've seen California royally screw up year after year after year. I mean, it's been completely highlighted under the reign of Gavin Newsom here. But even just on the mismanagement level, not even talking about the level of fraud going on. I mean, we have a lot of issues with political pundits essentially having shell companies and all of these fake organizations that they use to just funnel money into the pockets of their friends, or themselves for that matter. So I mean, just on every single level, it's just beyond ridiculous. And the fact that we continuously trust the California government to have hold funds like this in the first place is just ridiculous to me. I don't understand why the voters can't get that through their heads.
Yeah, I mean, that would be amazing if we could figure out how to actually fix the funding problems, because to me, that's what's so obvious about it is it's obviously they're using this to funnel into themselves, and everybody knows it. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
that's why I don't understand why we don't do something about it. Like, we know it's happening. We can see it happening. Like, what was how much money did they spend in California on that high speed rail system? How much money was that?
It's
Billions.
it's well, the budget is over. I want to say it's over 100 and some billion dollars at the moment. There's been about $20 billion that's currently been spent, but there's like no functioning rail lines at all. It's in the middle of the Central Valley and it goes from nowhere to nowhere, and it's not even close to being up and running for the small amount of rail line that they want to get done with just the 100,000 or $100 million, sorry, $100 billion budget that they have expanded it to. But the thing is that I was talking to one of our state legislators here the other day, and I'm going to forget the number off the top of my head, but these construction companies are contracted to where they get hundreds of $1,000s a day, because even if there's no work getting done. So all of these contractors, we're shelling out money to them and nothing is actually even happening. They're all getting paid to literally sit on their hands and not do anything.
Well, and that's the big thing, right? That's the grift. they set up programs, and they set up companies, and they set up groups to get this money, but then they don't do anything with the money. That's the part that's the biggest part with the grift here. They set these things up, and they set it up with their buddies.
Patel.
Hey, look, dude, you can't come up here and just interrupt the show. You got to get out of here. Sorry, but I mean, they come up here and they just immediately do this stuff. I mean, they immediately give it to their friends. That's just how it works. They give it to their friends.
Yep.
They move it to their buddies, and that's the problem. We have a huge problem with that. When the contracts themselves. This is the other thing that, by the way, I don't know if you guys noticed this. This is actually really important that happened just a couple days ago. The 8A program, and I don't know if anybody knows what the 8A program is. It's how they do federal-private contracts, like granting, awarding. 8A programs are being ended at the Pentagon. Now, that's a huge thing. I don't think people even realize how big of a deal that is. That's massive. The 8A program essentially means it's a DEI system, essentially, that people don't even really know about. But the way that it works is that based on your socioeconomic status and, racial status and everything else, that's how they grant things to the federal government contracts. It's a long-term grift. And the way that it really works is that those companies, if there's some native Alaskan East Eskimo tribe guy starts a company, he gets the contract, and then he sublets the rest of the contract out. So he gets 5% of the contract, and then everybody else that's on that line, they sublet the entire thing out. So, they may have 6 employees, and the contract that they sublet out to has 4,000, but they still get a piece of it because that's how they get they get a boost in being awarded the contract because their socioeconomic status, which is it's insane. Why do we do that? I mean, if they end that completely, that will save the federal government 5 to 15% on all money spent in private contracts. It's amazing. That's exactly what would happen.
That's what they call the points-based system.
Yeah.
So when you're a certain demographic or nonprofit or this or that or whatever, you get an additional point towards winning the contract. And the point is, not to put a pun on the word point, but the point is that it's a game. So you find the person that has that, and they're literally going to make 10% or whatever they propose, or 5% of this giant contract just for pushing the paper and holding the contract.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And think about it then in a state like California where the Democrats control everything, right? Well, then they can just push it to anybody that they want. They set it up so here's the people. We're going to push it to those people. That's just how it works. And this is something that's existed for a very long time, and I'm glad we're finally taking care of it. It's something that should have been dealt with a long time ago. The fact that I don't even understand how it was ever legal in the first place, to be honest with you. I never quite understood how this doesn't violate, civil rights issues. You would think it would, but in blue states, they just do whatever the hell they want. They give the awards to all their buddies, and it just piles up in front. And I say that, but at the same time, this is also a problem in red states too. I mean, this is not just an issue within one state. It's a general corruption issue that we have, and we do need to fix it. And which is what leads me back to this issue with the Senate. The Senate with this new bill that they're coming, this minibus bill. This is only one part of it that I found, that this $5 billion that they're pushing into refugee resettlement. By the way, the reason that money's so high is because of Biden. Biden is the one that amped that up even higher because he surged thousands and millions of people here. Yeah, they surged. That's what that budget was doing. It was resettling those people. So let's get rid of that. We should reduce that, take that back down to what it was pre-Obama, which was 600 million. That's what that budget and that was before that. But getting the government to reduce spending is like pulling teeth. It's like the most unbelievable thing in the world to me. We learned this unfortunately, we learned this very, very crucially during the DOJ stuff. The DOJ stuff made it very obvious that they don't want to cut budget. They don't care what it is. It doesn't matter what program it is. They don't want to cut the budget. They want to make it bigger, make it stronger, make it faster. I mean, it's a self-licking ice cream cone is what the budget is for these programs, and we need to get rid of it.
The tragedy of California, though, is going to be the pension fund. It's $1 trillion in deficit. And what's going to eventually come out is that the pension funds were invested into China. And this is not going to be a good thing because for the obvious reasons, right? Like we're in economic and global war with China. And these union folks that have pensions in the government are going to quickly find out that they don't really have a pension anymore because of the misuse and misappropriation by these corrupt politicians.
Well, I think California's got other issues. I mean, California right now, Priya can probably talk about this, how they want to do a wealth tax. You want to see Silicon Valley evaporate?
Yep. Yep, that's exactly right. I mean, people really don't understand the implications of a wealth tax on the billionaires in the state. Like, you really think the people that are quite literally the last crutch holding up the economy in the state are going to allow you to bully them around and give you more money than they already do? I think not. They are already leaving and they're going to continue to leave. And guess what? All of their businesses and their employees are going to go with them. That's going to be a massive, massive loss of annual revenue for the state of California. I mean, look past the this quote unquote emergency fund that they're going to put together with this wealth tax. That's going to be drained in a heartbeat if you lose billions and billions and billions of dollars in revenue every year when they all leave.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? California is already kind of having a debt problem. Imagine if you take out all of the most profitable companies in the world, essentially, which is what Silicon Valley, that's what Silicon Valley is. Silicon Valley, and not only that, the thing about Silicon Valley that makes it even worse for them is that Silicon Valley really, it's a startup machine. That's what it is. I mean, it's the
Yep.
entire area is designed to create the next big, Google or Facebook or whatever the hell it is. That's what Silicon Valley does. So if you tax unrealized gains, those people are all gone instantly. They're not going to be there for that. What the hell are you talking? Unrealized gains? They would completely collapse the model.
Yeah, well, and actually, Caleb Hammer, I believe is his last name, the guy that does all the economic stuff. He actually made a really good video about that specifically, and the specific billionaires that are going to have to sell like large portions of their companies in order to balance out the amount that they're going to have to pay for this billionaire tax here in California. Like, we're not talking 5% of their shares in these companies. We're talking 50% of shares in these companies. Like, this, it would just be beyond ridiculous. And people don't understand that this is going to trickle down to well, I mean, the middle class, but eventually probably the working class too. I mean, it's going to be, yeah, billionaires today, then it's going to be people with a $500 million network tomorrow, and then it's going to trickle down to the billionaires, and then it's going to be anybody that owns a home in California, because God knows the average home price in California is about 900,000 to $1 million. So, like, it's going to trickle down really quickly when you essentially deplete the budget of California completely.
Well, and that's the thing that, home ownership in California is impossible. I actually made a joke a while
Yeah.
back that I said the middle class in California is essentially the homeless. That was kind of a joke at the time, but to be honest with you, I mean, what is the middle class? How much is an apartment? I remember a friend of mine, she moved out to California. She was going to go, she was like, oh, I'm going to go move to California for a couple years. She was, in her early 20s. And I was like, good luck. And, she called me a couple months into that. Her rent was $6,600 a month. I was like, what the hell? How do you,
Yeah.
what do you do with that? I mean, how can you
Yeah.
possibly afford to live there? It's impossible.
No, it really is. It's really difficult, no matter where you're at in the state. To be completely honest with you, I mean, I live in Los Angeles now, but I grew up in
I was
smaller
like, what the
towns
hell?
in
How do
Northern
you,
California.
what do you do with that? Sorry, guys. Go ahead.
No, I grew up in smaller towns in Northern California, and it's impossible to find anything that's affordable, especially for the cost, or like for the people that are um like, the cost of living just hasn't, like, exponentially jetted way past what wages are coming out to in California specifically. I mean, there really is no middle class anymore. You have people that are just kind of barely scraping by and living paycheck to paycheck, or you have the ultra wealthy. But the answer to all those problems is not to essentially punish the ultra wealthy that provide these people jobs in the first place. It's to defund the government itself. And the government has a massive spending problem here in California, and on top of that, obviously, a fraud issue, which we've been highlighting.
Yeah, well, and that's what I think I worry about for California is I think they're just stupid enough to try and go after the last people in that state that are actually making any money, which would be the Silicon Valley types, and those people that whole industry will just up and leave, and they'll move to Austin, Texas. I mean, it's already started, really. I mean, there's the amount of businesses that are opening in California. You can see this. It's been on decline for many years. I mean, it's been on decline for many years at this point. But the problem that they have is that they don't seem to have any interest in fixing it. I don't know how you fix the state because it's completely captured by the Democrats. It's a complete, super majority. They own the entire state legislature. They own the attorney general, everything. Oh, all the local governments in the big cities are controlled by them. Northern California is the only place that actually has some red representatives. But even then, it's starting to get difficult for them. So I don't know how this problem gets resolved for California, because maybe it just has to be what Dan Bongini used to say. It has to get bad enough. And I don't know. Maybe that's the only thing that will fix it.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. I mean, we're, especially with this redistricting drama that we're having here in California, we're looking at in Northern California really only having McClintock as the last like Republican in in the House of Representatives for us down in Northern California. Like they're really snatching away a lot of our chances, and the supermajority is only getting stronger. We're not gaining any ground in all reality. I wish I could say that we were, but it is one of those things where it's looking like we just have to have essentially an entire collapse of the state for anything to get any better. I wish it wasn't the case, but it's looking more and more like that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It really is unfortunate. I mean, to me, the one thing I do worry about, though, is that some of these places where you think that, well, maybe after it collapses, it gets better, but does it? I mean, but really, does it? I mean, look at Baltimore. Baltimore hasn't been a good city my whole life. They have been a disaster zone forever. I mean, there's nothing that improves about Baltimore ever. You don't hear any good news about Baltimore. It has just been on the decline for 50 years now. So how do you get out of the capture is, I guess, my thought. And I don't know what the answer to that really is. I think the fraud aspect needs to be addressed, and you got to figure out how to kill the self-licking ice cream cones that prop all this stuff up. I think that's the only real answer.
Well, and the dangerous part, actually, the one movement that had real teeth was splitting California into two, and that movement was gaining some serious traction. The problem is petitions and elections and ballot stuff is only as good as the people who count the votes, and this is the issue that is facing California. My hope is
Bingo.
that you know we've already seen a sizable amount get removed from the rolls. They're going to try to hide. They're still trying to hide, not provide information in terms of the voters to the DOJ and to the federal government and as to their voter rolls, because we know it'll happen, right? Like once it's provided, it's gonna be very clear that there were dead people, not legal people, which a lot of which we're seeing out of Nevada and some other states already. So that's the only chance that California has. I mean, it's a sad story, to be honest with you, but it's the story of the rise of the neo-communism, what they call progressivism, but it's a neo-communist movement. Um, California was ran by moderate Democrats and Republicans in Sacramento, the state legislature, all the way up until the mid 2000s. And then the redistricting in the games began to take place, and the left got hyper organized and began to do what they do now. And now, obviously, it's just that quickly. Ironically, in the same time frame as Venezuela, when you really think about that, Priya, now that just kind of popped in my head, actually, isn't that wild? Same time frame as Venezuela. Venezuela was a first world country up until the early 2000s, and and look at where they went to, and now you look at the path of California. If you take out Silicon Valley's most successful companies, it is impossible. California will file bankruptcy. They'll have to file bankruptcy. There's no way that they would be able to fund all of the corruption and shell games that they have pushed for the last 20 years.
Yeah, no, we would see an entire collapse of the state. Like we would essentially have to just start the entire thing from scratch in the same way that Venezuela would have to be like completely wiped clean and revitalized to actually build something up again. I mean, I don't know how a redemption story would come out of it. I would like to think that there would. Um, but yeah, no, I really don't know what they're gonna do if all of the people that literally are propping up the economy all just leave. Like you're going to essentially kill the middle class and working class in in this state.
Well, there's examples of this already, by the way. If you were going to go look over at Europe, I believe it's Norway. Maybe it's not Norway. Maybe it's the other one right next to it, Sweden. It's one of the two. So at some point they instituted a wealth tax, and like all the wealthy people in Norway or Sweden just started leaving. And the funny part about that is that they're so ridiculous over there that the response to that was they put a board up. And I remember seeing this video and I was like, oh my goodness, they're doomed. They put this board up on the wall that said the wall of shame for all the people who have left the country because of the wealth tax. And they were chastising the people that left. Like, you're idiots. And Like, wow, that's I'm sure that's going to convince them that they need to be right on their way back in there. You know, the wall of shame has made the billionaires that you drove away, that drive all of the industry in your entire country. That's going to bring them back. That I'm sure they'll be on their way soon.
Yeah, right. That makes it super enticing for them to come and prop up the economy and give your citizens jobs and lives and all of these things. Yeah, that's totally going to incentivize them to come back and do things for you when you do nothing for them.
Yeah, well, this is the problem with the idiot socialists. The idiot Marxist, communist socialists have no idea how the world actually works. And they just assume if you just tax people that nothing will happen. Well, the problem that they have is that, unfortunately for them, at least in America, we still have free states that exist. And you're not going to, and what are you going to do? It to all 50 of them? You'd have to do it to every single state across the country because what happens right now, and you can see this, by the way, there's a great, someone put an article out on X. It was the U-Haul migration, and they can see the path of U-Hauls are leading directly to red states. I mean, it's something like the top 10, 7 of them have Republican governors in it. And I think the 8th one is Kentucky, which is Bashir, which he's a moderate sort of. But the rest of the states were controlled by the Republicans. So it's not looking good for the blue states. All those people keep leaving and they keep going to red states, which is going to be a problem for them on the census data, which is why we need to fix that too.
Yeah, well, and that brings me to my next point. I mean, Gavin Newsom has been here talking about how all of these claims that there's been a mass exodus from California are untrue. We've seen actually a population growth in the last, 4 or 5 years ever since COVID, this, that, and the other. And it's like, no, actually, yeah, you might have seen a population growth, but guess what? Illegal immigrants are considered in the census. That's
Yep.
exactly that's their entire plan. And Christopher brought up the voter fraud here in California. I have been screamed at for the last God knows how many years that there's no voter fraud in the country, let alone in California. Well, guess what? We found out that there was a dog, and I believe it was in San Diego County, that has voted in 2 elections, and guess what? They still received a ballot even after the dog had died. So to tell me that there's no voter fraud in California is absolute horseshit.
Oh my goodness, I love it. A friend of mine back in 2020, when the mail-in ballot stuff, he said, "Look, I guarantee this will work." He actually sent me a picture. He sent in a request for a ballot for Joe Blow, and he got it. He got a ballot delivered to his house for Joe Blow. I mean, it was just, this is amazing. The fraud is so apparent to people, and I love that they pretend that it's not happening. It's like, how long do you think they can keep the grift up of saying, "Oh no, there's no fraud whatsoever," and then Oregon cleans 800,000 ballots off their, Portland, Oregon cleans 800,000 people off their voter rolls. Oh, and then Fulton County finds 300,000. There is fraud. Okay, there is fraud. We know it. We've known it for a long time now. And the pretending and the acting as if we can't do this, which drives me crazy about the Senate with the SAVE Act. I mean, what are you doing, Chuck Grassley? Iowa, you're sitting here screaming that Iowa doesn't want the SAVE Act. Like, I don't give a shit about Iowa. I want the fucking SAVE Act to be passed for California. I want it to be passed for Washington State, Arizona, Georgia. I want it for those states, Chuck. I don't care about Iowa. Iowa's got, a fourth the people of these places do, even less than that. I mean, this is a joke that you're sitting here saying, well, the Iowa doesn't need the SAVE Act. Well, the rest of the country needs the SAVE Act, Chuck. I mean, come on, man. This is absurd that we can't get this stuff through. And this is the problem. Everyone talks about we need to nuke the filibuster and do this. Yeah, sure, that'd be great. That'd be great if we could actually do that. We would be great if we could get rid of the filibuster and do some of this stuff. But the problem is that you've got senators that have no interest in actually passing through the agenda. They don't care about the SAVE Act. They don't care about doing this stuff. Chuck Grassley is sitting here saying Iowa doesn't want to pass it. So whatever. This is a problem. This is the issue we have with the Senate. And if they don't get their game together, we're going to lose. And they're going to lose badly because I'll tell you right now that the old school GOP is some of the most unpopular people in the country by like a wide margin. And they don't even seem to realize it, which is beyond me. Does anybody just think about this for a moment? When you talk to your standard GOP voter, a standard Republican, America First type person, when you ask them today, who is your, do you really care a whole lot about John Thune? Do you like him? Is he your favorite? No? Okay. That I haven't ever heard anyone say that, to be honest with you. That's not a popular person. What about other guys? So, what about Chuck Grassley? What about, Mitch McConnell? Does anyone like him? No. People don't like these people. Okay. They're very unpopular. And they can't seem to grasp the idea that they better get on the populist bandwagon or the GOP is a dead party after Trump. Now, we'll see what happens with Trump and he coming into this midterms because I think the primaries are going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I will give Cocaine Mitch is that he did say that the winners make policy and the losers go home, and that's exactly what we're seeing with the GOP nowadays.
That's true.
And then he froze. and then he froze and couldn't speak another word and had to be helped off the floor by
Wheeled
another
off the wall.
United
He's
States
literally
senator.
being wheeled around in a wheelchair right now. It's
Wheeled
ridiculous.
around. And here's the thing with Iowa. I actually spent some time in Iowa in 2000 in the 2000 the caucuses and the presidential campaign in 2004. And the thing about Iowa that no one wants to talk about, and certainly Chuck doesn't want to talk about it, is the amount of illegal immigrants in Iowa, and especially with the meatpacking facilities along the river. And so and the other thing, we did have well, by the way, Walter, we did have someone in the space, Yeedy, send some great information that Iowa, the loophole in Iowa, by the way, so their universities allow illegal immigrants to attend college, okay, and they get a student ID. The student ID, and as we all also, by the way, know that they can go to the DMV and get a state issued ID. Once they do this, that puts them on the rolls, right? And so what'll happen is when this is all exposed, or if the SAVE Act were to pass, all of this would come unglued in Iowa, and people would see the situation in Iowa as well. And so,
well, you
and by
mentioned
the way,
something. See, you mentioned something that's actually pretty important about the students. So, a reporting that I did in March, probably before maybe February of last year, was that there was 400,000 illegal immigrants in higher education in the country. Okay, and there's actual numbers that show that. Now, there's a problem with that, and that's 2% of the total higher education population in the country, which is a huge issue. There's a lot of issues with education, specifically that they keep asking for more money, but they're actually going to see less students soon, significantly less. It's not going to be, we're about to see the education cliff that's going to happen, where there's going to be less people graduating from high school, and there's going to be less people just in general going to college at all. But of course, they're still demanding more money. But then when you get to the illegal immigrant part of this is reporting I did months ago. If you go back, and I think it's on my highlight reel, I'll see if I can find it. I'll post it in the comments or something. But the reporting then was that how are they paying for it, right? How are you paying for college? The average cost on a state institution in the United States is still $30,000 a year. You're here illegally. You don't have any access to, like, if you're here illegally, you don't have real money. You don't have access to money. You should be, lower income in that scenario. How are you paying for college? Well, the concept we came up with was, well, what if they're getting duplicate Social Security numbers? That's a real problem. That's a real problem. And then we kind of find out from Doge that, there's how many people on Social Security that were dead? There's 7 million names on that were still considered active on Social Security. I think people have been selling those numbers out in blocks for years, and they've just been used over and over and over again. I said that what we needed to do was we needed to take the Social Security numbers and then cross-reference it to FAFSA and look for duplicates. That's what we should have done. I don't know if it ever ended up happening. That was my suggestion back when I talked about it, but some of these things, they just kind of go under the water and we don't even talk about it anymore. We still got we get a lot of problems with higher education, let alone just this issue. But these are just other problems.
And we saw this break even recently, even on a testimony in front of the Senate. The GOP Senate. We'll just put the GOP Senate worthlessness to the side for a minute. Nevada testimony under oath to Congress. 42,000 people voted more than once. 1.5 thousand dead people voted. 19,000 voted living outside of Nevada. 8,000 used non-existent addresses. 15,000 used commercial and vacant addresses, and 4,000 non-citizens voted. That's a testimony under oath in Nevada. Keep in mind that there was a Senate race in Nevada that was extremely close, that would have went to the Republicans in the past. Because of this scenario, it did not, right? And so it's just another example. And I would also submit that there is absolute voter fraud in all of these states, but certainly in California, with unsolicited mail-in voting that does not require any proof of identification. It does not require a request from the voter, and it doesn't require even a signature or a notary. The signature of a voter isn't even required on the mail-in vote. And
well, listen, Chris, you're not only on the money about this, but you can actually hear the Democrats talk about specifically this, okay? There's a consultant that was working in Virginia for the Spanberger campaign that was talking about this. And he said there's one of the things that Virginia did back when they owned the state before is they set it up so that mail-in ballots, if you requested, and under a certain provision, if you had requested a mail-in ballot, then you got sent mail-in ballots indefinitely, okay? That's something that they had set up. And they still did that. They did that during Spanberger stuff. And that's why they knew they were going to win, because they said that we looked at our mail-in ballot numbers and we were really high on them. So we figured we would win. They said that openly. They said it openly. I mean, this is the issue with mail-in ballots. We need to get rid of this stuff, people. We need to kill mail-in ballots completely. And that would be the ideal scenario. If we could go back and actually fix the mail-in ballot issue and get to the point where we're doing, on day, same day elections, none of this, vote for 45 days. That's what it is in Virginia, by the way. It's 45 days of early voting. We need to get rid of that stuff. The point of voting should not be it's so easy that anybody can do it. It should be that it's your duty to get up, get off the couch on election day and go vote. That's what voting should be. It should be it's not even really that difficult. Okay, we used to do this for forever, and then we just decided during COVID that we didn't need to do it anymore. It's nuts. It's insane that we even came up with this concept in the first place. Go ahead, Keymaker. I know you've been trying to get in here.
I have a good idea, and I was thinking of this for you and anyone else that wants to write an article, because I ran a simulation the other day, and I kept doing it. It was actually because of what you mentioned, because we were talking about, the punishment for crimes. Some of them, how there used to be a lot of executions, but it would be make executions great again, which is mega. And they used to do it for all, like, I thought actually like I was wrong, and then I just kept running simulations, and it actually kept validating the executions are actually more important, right? And then there's a reason for public execution, even though it kind of erred on the side of like, as long as it's an execution, it has the value. But I look back in the history, I didn't realize actually how broad executions were for. So ballot stuffing was caught, and there were people executed. And voter fraud, they would catch people, and they would execute the people.
Listen to me. I am for public execution, okay? I think that we were a much better society that when you did bad things, you knew that you could be strung up in the street and kicked till dead. That was good. That was good for society, and it kept crime on the low. I mean, if the result of your criminal action is you get strung up by the citizens in the middle of the street, you probably won't do that. I mean, this is something we knew for thousands of years. This is an amazing thing that has existed. It's essentially only existed in the West for about, I don't know, it's probably about 100 years, maybe. Not even 100 years, really. For some reason, we need to get rid of all basic human instinct, and we believe that humans are just different for some reason. The same concept goes to like bullying and, and mockery and stuff like that. Like, we decided for some weird reason that we shouldn't do that it's mean and it's bad and it's terrible. Well, what's the result? It has not been promising results. Let's see here. We got rid of all of these things, and now there's people. That ended essentially with the end result of that. Really was men can become women, and if you say anything to the contrary, you're an evil, bigot, terrible person, and everyone should chastise you for that. That's insanity. That's where it ended. So, I don't necessarily think that was a good result, and I definitely don't think that results in the promising or in any way promising for the future of the country and the future of civilization generally, if this is where this goes. So I think going back to what we've always known has worked is probably a good thing, but we got to get the country ready for it somehow, and I don't know how we do that, but, start with executing random people, like, the guy who shot Charlie Kirk, publicly execute that dude. That would be a good step.
But Walter, you know why that was punishable by death? A lot of people don't know this. It's actually a statement to the health of our nation, right? Is how important your vote used to mean.
Right.
So when you steal an American vote, when you steal a country's vote, right? So there's war-torn countries, most countries in the world actually, require that you actually put ink on your finger and you fingerprint the ballot that you vote on, okay? And so even in war-torn countries, this is the case. And by the way, this is also the case in elections that we help oversee in most of these nations. What's happened over the years is we have allowed the value of our vote to be diminished based off of media and lies about the media and politicians, right? And so they have made it so, there's just minimal voter fraud. It's not even meaningful. It's like 0.001%. Which, of course, is the case when you can't prove the voter fraud because the courts won't allow evidence, and that most of these states have legalized voter fraud by our own State Department standards. Most of the blue states in this country, I would argue actually all of the blue states in this country, and even a sizable amount of red states.
Well, the good thing that we've now actually had a court ruling, though, that, candidates can challenge mail-in ballots and stuff like that. That was a Supreme Court ruling, which is good. So
Right.
we may see some changes on that. By the way, guys, before we move on here, I want to make sure everyone shares this space out. This is the Political Theater, weeknights at 9. This is my show. Walter Kurt. I got Priya Patel up here, and I have Chris Marino, my two co-hosts for the evening. Make sure you guys follow both of them. I don't know if they have subscriptions available on their accounts yet, but make sure you guys do anything you can to support them. And if you want to support this show, go to WCDispatch.com, or you can subscribe right here on X. If you subscribe on here on X, you get behind the scenes access to the investigations that I'm working on. I've got some pretty interesting updates coming out this week. I'm supposed to be in D.C. I was actually supposed to be in D.C. today, but then that changed, and I'm flying in tomorrow morning early. So I'll be in D.C. for the week, which should be pretty interesting because there's apparently supposed to be a massive snowstorm that's going to hit. So hopefully I can get in and out before that all happens. But we'll see. If you looked and see what the snowstorm did in Russia, apparently there's like the worst snow they've had in 130 years. So hopefully we don't get that. But, it looks like we are supposed to have like 2 feet of snow in Virginia. So that should be pretty interesting. But anyway, guys, make sure you guys share the space out. Make sure you follow everyone up here on my stage. I got good people up here. If you guys want to join the show, you got to go to WC Dispatch on X, and you can join the show and chime in yourself. If you're going to put a comment in here, you can always read. I do read the comments throughout the show, and I'm always curious about feedback. So make sure you guys leave comments wherever you're at, and I will read them out on the show. Okay, let's go to Patriot Ford. You got your hand up. You've been waiting patiently. What's up, Patriot?
Yeah, hi Walter. Thanks for having me up. Great show every day. So before I get to the point I wanted to make, I just wanted to point out I did DM it to you. I did find a lot of different Jubbas. I found Jubba Labs LLC. I found
Jubba Labs. What is Jubba Labs?
Yes,
What do they do?
It's
do they do blood work?
A wholesaler.
Oh my god!
I did not research exactly what they do, but I think it's a wholesaler. I DM'd it to you. Check your DMs.
Jubba Worldwide. I'm telling you, it's a conglomerate, dude. We're being taken over by Jubba.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
And then there was Jubba Fine Foods, Jubba's Palace.
Oh, Lord. Oh, no.
That's their black market wholesaler. That's the one that gets all the stuff off the truck by the Somali pirates and puts them out there. That's why you got
listen. So when we first tried to figure out what Jubba was, when we found out, like when we saw Jubba Value Center, we're like, what the hell is Jubba? We looked it up, and apparently Jubba is also food in Somalia. And let me explain this to you. What this said, and this should be grounds for deportation just on this alone. But it said that Jubba as a food is rice with spaghetti and select green sauce. That sounds revolting, and you should be deported just for even, envisioning such a horrible thing. I mean, I don't know what that means. Rice and spaghetti in the same time, along with green sauce. I'm not for it. If you serve that, you should be deported immediately.
It's served by hand too, Walter.
Oh,
they scoop it right out with hand.
I'm sure. They scoop it out with other versions of Jubba. That's what really happens. I mean, there's too much Jubba. Okay, all Jubba. Investigate all Jubba. That's mandatory. Anything that has anything to do with Jubba needs to be investigated. It's mandatory at this point. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the Jubba Labs is a wholesaler. It's based out of Texas. Apparently, it's like a LabCorp company. So I'm wondering if they're doing fraud.
I'm sure. Listen, anything Jubba is essentially, I guarantee you there's some version of fraud that exists within Jubba. It doesn't matter what it is. But of course, if you can go fly on Jubba Airways, you let me know how that is. They say they have good leg room. Now, that's probably because it's very easy to have good leg room when all of the other passengers on the plane are just American bags of cash. So that's it's very easy to have lots of room on your flight when all of the other passengers are just heaps and heaps of money that are just being piloted over there by their other friends in the Jubba Airways. So I don't know, but I agree with you. Anything that's Jubba, send it to me and I'll take a look at it because Jubba. Amazing stuff. Okay.
Yeah, and then also getting to California, what you were talking about earlier. In California, the thing is with all the companies that they're ultimately going to be shutting down with all their billionaire tax and millionaire tax and all this garbage, and which they're practically doing right now in Virginia, which is going to tank the economy in Virginia and in California if they end up actually moving through with this, is because all the millionaires and billionaires are all going to move out. It's Elon Musk already moved Tesla out of California. All these these states are going to bankrupt themselves so much that they won't even be able to recover from their taxing the rich fallacy.
Well,
And
that's
then
exactly
even
right.
people that's what?
Go ahead, you're fine.
What? No, you
I was
could
just gonna say
continue.
that's exactly right. And it's not like they haven't had a forewarning about this. This has been happening for years in California.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, they don't have any interest in fixing. They don't care. The California government is run by lunatic leftists, spearheaded by the idiot himself, Gavin Newsom. I mean, this guy has no idea what he's doing anyway, and he's just going to continue to run on any policy he thinks is going to be popular for him in the future. Is amazing to me. So, I can't stand Gavin Newsom, but this is just reality.
That's exactly right. And I know we were
But
talking about
also,
the voter fraud earlier, and then I believe it was both you, Chris, and Walter, that brought up the mail-in voting here in California. The other issue, alongside all of the fraud that comes with the mail-in voting, the other issue that we have in California is that with the mail-in voting, of course, Democrats show up in droves to vote early and mail-in votes. And Republicans in the state obviously always, well, not always, but consistently wait to vote on election day. And they create such a large hump that we have to get over on election day that it's quite literally impossible with the amount of votes that we have to get over. Like we physically can't do it.
Yes, that's a general problem with me. Like, one of the things I get annoyed with some people. Some people really don't like when Republicans talk about, well, we need to do mail-in voting. We need to do mail-in. We need to do, early voting. We need to do all that. That people get angry about it. And they're like, well, no, we don't. We need to do election day only. Like, sure, if you live in the world of fantasy where, we have the same day voting and all of that is, above board, sure, that'd be one way. But the reality is we don't live in that world. We have to play on the same playing field. We have to.
Yeah.
There's no choice.
Yeah. That's exactly right. I mean, I was trying to push out everybody that I could, possibly get in contact with to vote early in this last special election that we had this last year. But it's not possible. We as conservatives can't get over our, we try and conserve what we love, and obviously we want same day voting, but unfortunately that's not the card, that those aren't the cards that we've been dealt. We have to game the system any way that we can, and if we're not going to do that, we're going to lose.
That's right. And that's the general problem I have with it is that, if we lived in the world where we could actually rely on same day voting, that'd be one thing, but we don't. We just don't live in that world. And, watching everybody scream about it is amazing. It's amazing. Everyone, oh, we don't like it. We don't like doing this. We don't like doing that. Guys, we have to do something. We have to play on the same playing field as everybody else because the Democrats don't care. Now, but to the other side of this is Trump in this year has had some serious wins, guys. He has done some great things. And today was another one of those great days when he actually announced that he's going to get BlackRock. They're going to go after, large corporate interests buying residential homes. And this is important for California and specifically because one of the things that's an issue in these big states, in these blue states, is you can't buy homes. Almost no one can buy a house. I mean, what is it? What is a 2,000 square foot house in California right now, Priya? No, Priya. Well,
I mean, realistically, I mean, that would be a great question. I mean, we could look it up, but it's way above it's way above the national average. It would probably be like 2 times the national average at the very least.
Yeah, I assume it's probably even more than that. I mean, I just know that a friend of mine, they bought a house in Denver at some point, right? And they paid for a house that was smaller than my house here in Ohio. It was significantly smaller. It was like 200 or 300 square feet smaller. Had one less bathroom and whatnot, and it was $580,000 or something like that. I bought a 3-bedroom house in Springfield, Ohio, with 3 bathrooms, and it was less than 200 grand. It's how can you afford buying a house that's so astronomically expensive? And this is because of the massive corporate groups buying residential homes on wholesale, essentially. And this also leads into the fraud stuff too, by the way, guys. This is stuff we haven't even published on yet. But the fraud stuff, we found that a lot of these fraudsters, what they're doing with some of these assets once they've washed that money is they buy houses with it. And they set up a bunch of conglomerate groups and they start buying residential houses. And most of the places that they buy, by the way, are all low income housing, rundown houses, older houses, stuff like that. They just buy them up and that's cash for them essentially. Because once they have it in that, then they, it gains the money. They can do all sorts of stuff with it once they have that set up. So that's a huge problem. Once we actually get these groups out of purchasing homes, there's also a while back, they were talking about removing the taxes when you would buy or sell homes or something like that. And that's good, but that should only be done to groups that like it can only be done if it's your residential house. I think that would be the only way we can avoid that tax. You can't allow these corporate groups to get no tax on selling at residential houses. That would be insane. But I think the Trump administration's all over that.
Yeah, I think that correct me if I'm wrong. I think that there's an executive order now, maybe that is banning investment groups from being able to purchase single family homes. Again, I don't think it's not actually in law yet. It's so that could easily be overturned by the next administration. The other game changer by the Trump administration, year one, going back to the title of the space, is his call. Well, I mean, not call at this point. They have done an executive order to allow for you to be able to take from your 401k tax free and up to, I think it's $30,000 is what I just read today. And so that would be a game changer to help with the down payment of a house. So there's some great things they're doing. Of course, the allowing your rental payment history to be counted as the equivalent of credit score, but they're also making some changes to the credit system, I think, which is where FICO is. I think they filed something in court. I'll have to go back and verify. I just heard this yesterday, which is going to kind of negate FICO scores and allow for people that essentially, as long as you have the income coming in to be able to provide to put a down payment on a house and pay for your house, you will be able to get approved when it's all said and done at some point early this year.
Well, that's good.
We'll see what that is. I don't have the full details on it. So again, I'm just speculating at this point based off what I was told. And I'll get some more information on that. That would be a game changer as well.
Well, they've done a lot of things when it comes to like this is some of the stuff that I'm really happy about. And there's also the executive order that Trump's doing about the trying to figure out how to deal with the credit card interest rates, which have just been astronomically high. I mean, the 30% credit card interest is insane that they even had that in the first place, that it's just been going on. In the amount of money that's up in credit card debt right now is astronomical. So, if they actually managed, I don't know how that's legal, though. I'm not really sure how they can force that. I think it was more just like a general call to see if they would do it. But we'll see if that actually managed to move forward somehow, that they can get that into, some sort of legal standing on it.
It's for a year. So
yeah, I know, but the deal is, but again, the legal aspect of that is what I don't understand. I haven't fully looked into that, but if they manage to get that done, that would be incredible. Before we move on, guys, I want to make sure everyone shares this space out. Make sure you guys put a comment down below if you got something to say. I'll make sure you guys share this out. This is the Political Theater, and I want to welcome someone to the stage. As a friend of mine that I met out in Portland here. What is up, Geyer Digital? What's up, buddy?
What's up, buddy, man? You caught me with my mouth full.
That's all right. Well, I wanted to make sure I got you up here because, guys, if you don't follow Geyer, if you're interested in Portland and anything going on the ground there, make sure you follow his account. He's a great reporter. He's always out there at the ICE facility, and he also was the one that broke the story yesterday about the two officers that was that an ambush shooting? Was that what that was?
You know what? I'm assuming so. I don't think they've determined it as an ambush. They rolled up on him and they said it was a call with the man wielding a knife.
And then they just opened fired when he showed up? I mean, what's the deal there?
I guess so. That's all they're giving us, really, which is a little bit confusing because they turn on their body cams all the time.
Right. So, I mean,
how do they not know the details of the shooting?
Well, it sounds to me like it was an ambush and they just don't want to talk about it because it's bad press for them. That's what it sounds like to me. But yeah, I just wanted to catch up with you real quick. How is it out there in Portland? Is it still as communist as when I left?
Oh, it's still as communist as when you left. Maybe it got a little bit worse.
Oh, wonderful. It always gets worse.
Man, it was pretty clear in the driveway when you were down there. Last night, they were over in the driveway burning American flags on federal property, banging on the driveway, gates in the driveway. Federal officers came out and arrested the infamous Portland chicken. His name is Mr. Dickinson. I don't know I can't remember his first name. I made a post about him earlier today. Mr. Dickinson. They arrested him as well as another person in a onesie. And they fired pepper balls at the alleged protesters. They're not protesters. So they made some arrests. And then that's when I got the call last night about, unfortunately, those officers being shot on 17th Clackamas.
Well,
so I arrived on scene. They had massive police presence. I mean, the 72 units called to a shooting of officers being shot. That's significant. Here in Portland, we don't really have officers being shot here in Portland, and so it kind of kind of rung my bell a little bit. So I got on scene, saw all of the SWAT units. They had thermal drones surrounding the Holiday Park Plaza building, which is on the corner of 16th and 16th. And oh my goodness, what is that, Multnomah? And so after that, they zeroed in on a building across the street, and SWAT officers shined their floodlights on or spotlights on a certain building on the south side. And that's where I was assuming they think he ran into was either the Holiday Park Plaza or the building across the street. They still don't have a positive ID on the guy when it comes to a name, but that photo is circulating everywhere.
Wow. Well, that's
officers. One officer has been reported that he is home with his family. Another officer is still in the hospital.
wow. Well, good reporting, Geyer. Guys,
That's
make sure
all
you
the
guys
reports
follow.
I'm getting on
Make
there.
sure you guys follow.
Chief Day had nothing to say. Mayor Wilson really had nothing to say. And it kind of irks me that he would cry over, Tren de Aragua members being shot here in Portland.
Yeah.
And he would not cry over his own police officers being shot or shed any sort of emotion. It was just kind of bare. And unfortunately, that's the
Well, I mean, at least
entail of what happened last night.
Well, I'm glad that you're out there, though, Geyer. Make sure you guys follow him. By the way, he does a really good job out there on the ground in Portland. But Geyer, the other thing I wanted to ask you about, because you were,
Did I go rogue? What happened?
He probably can't hear me. Hold on, I'll rotate him. Hold on a second here. I want to ask him a question about the Portland while I was out there. So let me remove him from speakers. I'll bring him right back up. Because there's a question I wanted to talk to him about, because while I was out there on the ground, he was one of the other people that I was talking to. There was two journalists that I met up with while I was out there, and he was one of them. And watching the scene setting that was happening during the Portland riots while I was out there was kind of incredible to see. Just the obvious money that was involved in it, and I think that's worth hearing from somebody else that's out there on a regular basis to be able to hear it directly from him. So if I can get him back up here, we'll continue with that.
All right, can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Yep.
Hey, I was just rambling and I went rogue for a second.
No, you were good. You just lost audio with me, and we all heard what you said, but you couldn't hear me. So I wanted to get the other reaction from you, because while I was out there, I kept mentioning it to people while I was there. It was like the scene setting in front of the damn ice facility was ridiculous. I mean, just the little candles, the flowers. But my favorite out of all of it was one of the nights that we were out there that they brought out Venezuelan girls with meat and cheese trays and just passed it out. And I just thought that was the most absurd thing in the world to me. Like, I mean, to me, like, just watching this, I'm like, does anyone think this is organic? Like, this is what people believe is organic? The people on the ground there, like, they don't question where the meat and cheese tray came from and the beautiful Venezuelan girls with the Venezuelan music and all of the live music and DJs and everything else. What did they think? What are these people? What is the response from these people when you say, like, this isn't very organic? Like, I mean, is there any response to that?
Yeah, it reminds me of a high school drama class. And it's not organic. I mean, it's a publicity event. All of these people down here want to show the world that they're not violent, that they're not doing anything wild. They're all community, having a party. I mean, at first they labeled it the Portland Music Festival, and everything, all the hashtags, everything there was the Portland Music Festival. And so they're trying to make it seem like it's like a big party, when really there's criminals down there that should not be down there doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, what I noticed about it, and I brought it up while I was there, is like, this is just gangland violence is what it really is.
Yeah.
There's straight gang violence, and it's just straight lawlessness, and the cops don't really seem to care at all. And I've seen the most recent videos that I've seen, a couple of the ones you've been putting out of them. The protesters are getting a lot more bold. I think that ICE facility is probably just a skeleton crew at this point, so they probably don't have the people to be able to do what they need to do there, especially based on how many people are just encroaching on the actual property at this point. It's getting worse and worse since I've left.
Well, I can tell you this, Walter. They know that holidays and federal holidays that certain officers take the night off, and so that's why they were able to be there for as long as they were in the actual, like, as they were trespassing into the park, into the driveway. And what was kind of concerning to me a little bit, Walter, and I said this in my video yesterday, as soon as I got the call, as I was live streaming, I saw undercover officers zooming down Macadam Boulevard. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. I saw like 4 or 5 squad cars. And so then about 3 minutes later, I get a tip saying, hey, get to Southeast Portland. 2 officers were just shot. And then I went on the scanner, the radio, and right after they said all units, 72 units to that location, I saw Black Bloc come out of nowhere and make their way over to the corner. So when you got a small police force,
Mm-hmm.
and they're making their way all units to one certain area, Black Bloc's on the radio. They know that. They know that there's going to be no police presence. They know that Martin Luther King Day, the federal agents have the night off. There's only 10 of them there, maybe.
Right.
So that's the kind of the question that I had.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably what was going on, and I don't know what their intention was, but I mean, that to me, it's very coordinated, and that's what I pointed out when I was there, is that all of the stuff between these people is it's insanely coordinated, and they obviously have inside information because I was watching them talk about when they knew agents were supposed to be coming in or out, or when they were supposed to bring people to the facility in or out. I mean, they all know this stuff, so watching Portland was very interesting for me because it was very, very clear that all of this stuff is super coordinated, especially when I heard them talking about how the top people in Rose City were over in Minneapolis, which to me, I don't understand why we don't go after these people for like interstate, it's a criminal organization at that point when they're coordinating across state lines to do this stuff. It's incredible, really.
Yeah, what I'm hearing too is it's not even getting in across state lines. It's even getting into the what do you call it? Internet money, cryptocurrency and the meme coins and stuff like that.
Well, that I'm not surprised by. I mean, that I'm not surprised by that. But anyway, Geyer, thanks for coming up here, buddy. You're always welcome to come on the show, by the way. This is a weeknight show, so it shows up at 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm not sure what that time is on West to West Coast. So you're always welcome to come up here. If you've got anything interesting, you're always welcome to join the show. Make sure you guys follow Geyer, guys. He's a great reporter. He does a lot of good work out there in Portland. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
God bless you,
Walter.
Thank you.
I don't know if you've covered this or not, but 2 hours ago, Kristi Noem was on Newsmax and said that arrests in Minnesota for the storming of St. Paul Church, the church in St. Paul, City's Church is what it is, the name of the church that was in St. Paul's, Minnesota. Arrests are coming tonight, within hours.
Yeah, I saw that actually. I did see that. So that should be interesting, and I hope they actually deliver on that. They need to deliver on that. I would be very happy to see them deliver on that. So we'll see what actually ends up happening because you never know what the result of them saying they're going to do stuff is. I hope that means that there's going to be real action. And if we see Don Lemon in handcuffs, that'll make my night. So, to me, that's great for me. I mean, I hope that happens. That would be beautiful. And I want to welcome James Fishback coming up here to the stage here. James is the one of the people running for governor down there in Florida. James, how are you this evening, sir?
I'm doing great, guys. Good evening.
Yeah, James, you posted something the other day that I wanted to ask you about. What on earth were you doing taking advice from Christina Prushaw for anything to do with the campaigning?
It's so funny. I had followed her for a long time, and I don't know that I took a lot of her advice. I talked to her a couple times a week. She's obviously, well acquainted with Florida politics, but at the end of the day, some people just get the call, and she did, and our campaign is full steam ahead. She said in her long-form 9-paragraph crash-out tweet about me that she is afraid, quote, of James Fishback. Christina Pushaw should be afraid of me and our entire movement. The days of Tallahassee and the deep state in Florida ripping off working families and seniors is over. We will destroy any element of the Republican Party that seeks to destroy us. And if you as a Republican are unwilling to acknowledge the great replacement of our people, if you are willing to issue a press statement about some nightclub but say nothing about the intimidation, harassment, and violence towards Christians in Minneapolis, you do not belong in our party. Let's be very clear. If those Antifa BLM sickos had stormed into a synagogue, they would have triggered DEFCON 2. But because they were Christians, because they went after us, it's okay, and no one has been arrested. I hope it's the case that Don Lemon gets dragged into cuff and is separated from his so-called husband. But honestly, I'm kind of sick and tired of waiting around for the government to stand in. We have to take responsibility, and we have to fight back.
Well, I said the same thing about if they had gone into a Muslim, if they'd gone into a mosque, it would have been the same result. I mean, it would have been, the left would have melted down beyond all belief. But the one thing I will say is that they are looking like they're going to arrest some people for this on FACE Act violation. So we'll see, because they're saying that there could be arrests coming very, very, very shortly. I just hope we see Don Lemon get arrested. That would be incredible. And the only reason I brought up Christina Prushaw is because Christina Prushaw, to me, I saw that like any advice you were getting from her, this woman is not a great political strategist at all. In fact, I would say that she's quite literally the opposite of that. So, like I was kind of amazed by that. I saw your post talking about her, and I don't even know what the crash out that she's having is. I haven't been paying that much attention, to be honest with you, with what's going on here. But I just saw that. I was like, what on earth are you doing talking to her? I mean, she is not, this is the person that essentially nuked any chances of DeSantis ever having a chance in national politics. She's not a great person for political acumen at all. So I just thought that was pretty interesting that you were talking about it. But in terms of what happens in Minneapolis, we need to see real arrests. That would be fantastic if we see real arrests. It's kind of necessary at this point. There needs to be something done to the point of all these people that are showing up and just randomly going in churches and harassing people, harassing families. Because the next thing that'll happen on this, if we don't deal with it now, the next result that will happen as a result of that will be they will start going into the homes of people in that state. They will start going into their homes and they will start saying to you, we believe you're working with ICE. And at that point, you're in full lawlessness, complete and total lawlessness. And that's something we can't have.
Well, I agree completely. And what I would say is for folks who live in states like Florida or Texas or Alabama, where you have constitutional carry, as Christians, we need to be going to church armed. I'm just going to say the truth. We need to be going to church armed. If they would have pulled that stunt in Florida, the police wouldn't even have got there in time before a couple shots went off from fellow parishioners, because we do not tolerate that kind of violence and intimidation here in our state. And so at the end of the day, I think it's the responsibility of us to protect ourselves and to defend ourselves. And as much as I'd love to see people prosecuted under the FACE Act, in the meantime, in between time, we can't wait for the DC government to come save us. We need to save ourselves. And to all of the Christians, so many of whom are on this space tonight, when you go to church this Sunday, join me in carrying and being lawful in securing and defending your churches, your congregations against, and look, we're not immune from it in Florida. We got BLM and Antifa here. We've got America Last Sickos here. You need to be prepared to defend yourself against these people, because make no mistake, they will kill us and they will cheer in the streets over our dead bodies.
Well, that's absolutely true. And I agree with being armed going to church. I am armed every day. I don't leave my home without my firearm. Unfortunately, I live in a red state where it is constitutional carry, and I carry to church every single time I go. So, I agree with you entirely. In fact, there was what was the shooting that happened at, or some guy that drove into a church or something like that. It was a Mormon place that he drove into it and started open firing. The reason that wasn't as bad is because the parishioners there were armed. The people that were there were armed. So that's how that actually stopped, is that the people actually took him down. So that is necessary for everyone to be armed. And I recommend everyone carry everywhere all the time. If you live in a communist state, I feel bad for you. Move. That was my suggestion, is move. Get out of the communist states. The communist states are not places for you to live. But anyway, it's James. It's always good to hear from you. Thank you for coming up here. And I was curious just about the Christina Pushaw part, and anything else you would like to say.
Well, I just want to say that I'm grateful for everyone who's part of our movement. Look, there's a real debate happening in the Republican Party right now. Some call it a civil war, but honestly, let's just call it a debate. I think there's a debate between MAGA and America First. I think everyone knows where I stand on that particular equation. But I think the larger debate is one between economic nationalism and economic corporatism. Look, if you think that America is a nation state, if you believe that we have an identity, we have a heritage, and we should respect that identity and heritage, then I think we are on the same team. But if you view our country as the next Dubai or Singapore, as a free trade zone, as an economic area, as opposed to a nation with a distinct Christian identity and heritage, then I just don't know how you can be a part of the Republican movement going forward. I think for far too long, the country club Republicans, the open border Republicans who wanted to exploit cheap foreign labor, whether it was illegals or H-1Bs, their days are numbered. And I think the future of our party is going to look like real economic nationalists who will stand up to the Great Replacement, who will not apologize for defending our soil, and will ultimately say we are not going to let our blood be poisoned by endless immigration, whether it's illegal or legal. We've been sold this lie for far too long that immigration is good so long as you follow the rules and wait your turn. No. Why should you be allowed to wait your turn to replace us? Why should you be allowed to follow the rules and then break those rules by robbing us of our birthright? And so I'm running for Florida governor in my race for the very simple reason that I believe that Florida is a sovereign state. I believe in states' rights, and I believe that every single Floridian is entitled to the American birthright. Haitian immigrants who got here 3 weeks ago and refused to speak our language are not entitled to it. H-1Bs from India who will take jobs away from recent college grads are not entitled to it. The people who are entitled to it are the people who love our country, who pledge allegiance to one nation, just one. Those are the people who I believe that we need to be fighting for. And that's what I'm doing here in Florida. And we'll see what happens. But we got 7 months ahead, and I just finished up 5 events back to back over the last 4 days, and we'll keep pounding the pavement here. And I think, 2026 will be an interesting midterm election, but I think the races to watch are actually at the state level, and perhaps there's no better race to proxy where the Republican Party is headed in 28 than 2026. You've got Congressman Byron Donalds, who really represents the America Last Republican establishment, and I'd like to think our campaign that represents the America First, Florida First movement. And so, if anything, I think this race will be a proxy for where the national conversation will go in 2028.
Well, James, you're running for governor in the state of Florida. There's 3 people that are on the ballot, maybe more, but the front 2 runners, obviously, based on your own posts, have several $1 million in their pocket. You have $950 in your campaign account based on your post. Obviously, you could potentially have more. I'm just going off of what you posted. I haven't looked at the campaign finance documents. Do you have like some large donors that are going to be putting you in a position to even have a shot, or what's your plan to overcome that?
Well, I just want to correct the record, Christopher, about the $950. That is not accurate. My girlfriend and I, we went to Burger King and we split a Whopper, so now we're down to $943. So we're actually down a little bit there. I kid. We've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars in just the last 2 weeks alone. Those campaign numbers were not accurate, and they were just a couple weeks away from the deadline for when we had launched. But I'm proud of the work that our campaign has done. We are already second in the polls. Clearly, Byron Donalds has had a 9-month head start. But the most important thing right here, right now, is for us to keep pounding the pavement. My opponents want to run around and go on Fox News and serve up GOP establishment talking points. We're done with that. I think Floridians are hungry for a candidate who's going to show up in their towns, like I was just now in Bushnell and Sumter County, a town of just 3,000 people. I have said that no town, no county is too big or too small for me to visit and to take questions directly from voters. That's what I did for the last 3 hours. As many of you know, I sat for over an hour with Tucker 2 weeks ago, and I'll be with PBD tomorrow on the PBD podcast down in Fort Lauderdale, where I'm headed right now. And so, honestly, $950, we're down a little bit on that, but I'm confident where we're going to be over the next 7 months.
So just for clarification, then, so basically that was what was from your initial report, because obviously, for people who are watching who don't know campaign finance, there's quarterly filings. You're raising money. You're out there marching around. You're going to be on PBD tomorrow.
I'm on PBD tomorrow, and I think so. To be completely fair, I mean the 950 thing is a joke. It was not 950. I don't know why that was reported, but I can tell you, I spoke with our campaign manager earlier this morning, and we're just days away from hitting our $250,000 goal. And I got to tell you, look, our social media strategy, I'm really proud of our team. I'm really proud of folks like Kingston Bookie, of Landon Blake, of a ton of people like Zach and Aiden on our team. They're doing incredible work. We've done 167 million unique impressions in just the last 7 weeks, and we've spent exactly $0.00 on that. And so $250,000 has already gone a long, long way for our campaign, and the best is yet to come. But I'll tell you, look, this race is not going to be won by APAC dollars or corporate donors or hedge funds. It's going to be won by meeting with voters, and we'll continue doing that every single day between now and August 18th. The Republican primary in our state decides who the next governor is. Look, Trump won by 13 points. DeSantis won by 20 points. There are 1.5 million more registered Republicans than Democrats. The next governor will not be decided in the general election. The next governor is a Republican. That means that he will be decided on August 18th, 2026. And that's why I'm asking any former Republican who is now a Democrat or an independent, switch back your voter registration before July 20th. You can go online and do it very easily. Just Google change voter registration Florida. It takes you 5 minutes, and that makes sure that you have a voice in deciding who our next governor is. Because if you wait until November, you will be disenfranchised in this election. You have to vote as a registered Republican on August 18th. And if we do that, we will win this race. As far as I'm concerned, the more the merrier. The more candidates that want to get in this race, the better, because we have a consistent base of America First followers who recognize that this election will determine the future of a state that my family has known for 4 generations.
Well, James, the one thing I say to people when they're talking about anything to do with primaries is that I have no problem with primaries generally. I think that iron sharpens iron. And I actually like primaries. I think primaries are necessary. I don't care who's in the primary. To me, if you want to be in the primary and you want to go up there and you can actually do something about it, then that makes the other candidate, even if you don't win, it may change their opinion because they may want to get some of your votes, even if you get into if you don't manage to win the election. It is a necessary thing for us to have primaries. It is good. It is a good thing in our politics. And the other thing about it that I like more than anything else is that I do not want us to ever, even remotely become like the left, where they have a monolithic party that never argues about anything ever. To me, having argument is the most important thing you can do in any scenario. Having any argument within politics is absolutely vital. Whether or not you actually manage to succeed or not, I don't know. I haven't been paying a whole lot of attention to Florida because I'm busy up here in Ohio trying to deal with what's going on in my race up here. So we will see what's happening up in Florida here. But obviously, to me, everybody should be involved in your primary because a primary is the actual number one and most important election. It is the most important election, really. Everyone wants to talk about the final November election, but the primary is always where it's far more important, where you have a lot more sway, where your voice actually matters more than anything else. So if you have the argument and you actually manage to get the votes, then that's on you. And that's up to you. And if you can prove it and you can actually raise the money, the one thing I will say is that I hear people that say, I don't want to take any corporate money or anything like that. The one thing I don't like hearing about that is that you have to remember that the Democrats will have that corporate money. So if you get into a scenario where you actually do manage to win your primary, you need to figure out who you can work with in the corporate world because you need the funding. Otherwise, the Democrats will drown you with ads and they will kill you. And I don't want to see that happen to any candidate. So I make sure that everyone that is aware of that, because you have to be able to fight ads with ads. And the reality is that the Democrats don't give a damn. They can put a goldfish up for election and they'll give it $100 million and then flood the airways and they'll win. So I just tell everybody that if you're talking about your campaign, make sure you start thinking about and planning about that. Is if you manage to win and get into the primary, you're going to need the money, because otherwise you're going to be up against a machine that is relentless and they don't care if you don't want to be a non-corporate donor. They are more than happy to take corporate money. They are more than happy to take NGO money. They are more than happy to flood the airways with hundreds of millions of dollars worth of ads if they think they've got a shot, and they will do it if they think they've got it. So just want to make sure that you're aware of that sort of thing, because getting into the elections, once you actually get into that point, the Democrats don't have that same rule book. They don't care. They will take whatever money they can. So I just make sure everyone is aware of that. But good luck in your primary, sir.
Walter, you're right. I want to touch, James. I think you have the strongest grassroots campaign that we've probably ever seen in this day and age. And don't underestimate, I think, the average Floridian. There's a lot of people that are really fired up, and once we get past the primaries, I think if money's an issue, you will have no problem raising it. And also, I was wondering if it's possible to be governor and president, if you can run for those at the same time.
Yeah.
No, not in Florida, actually. Actually, wait, no, didn't DeSantis change that? Didn't he say that he could run for president and that? He changed that law, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he did. He did change that law. I'm going to be real honest, man. I think I will take the patriotism of the Cuban people in South Florida all day, every day, over a lot of the Puerto Ricans in Florida that continue to vote a different direction. So, I'm just going to simply put that. I mean, that's a patriotic people down there. I would definitely make sure that, when I hear some of the words you're using, it's obviously going to be an exciting campaign for you. We'll see how that plays out. I would just say that the patriotism of the Cuban people there in South Florida is very important in terms of the Republican vote.
Well, you look, and I think that's fair, Chris. Look, I think the patriotism of Cubans should be celebrated, but I also think that I don't want to discount my Puerto Rican friends here in Central Florida who have fought in every single war in modern American history. I'm grateful for them and their contributions. The biggest thing, though, in all of this, to tell you the truth, is I think a lot of people come up to us and are a bit resigned to the fact that, too much corporate money or too much APAC money is already in the race, and Byron Donalds is going to win, and it's an inevitable fact. Look, we've already won, they say, because we've introduced and we've moved the Overton window. No, we haven't. We don't win until we send Byron Donalds packing back to the Section 8 ghetto that he came from in New York City. He is not from here. He is a carpetbagger. In the span of 3 years when he moved here, he managed to get himself arrested twice. I'm running because I believe in law and order, and I've already said that the homeless situation in our state, whether it's in Jacksonville, St. Pete, Tampa, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, it's out of control. We have to send in the Florida National Guard to remove these folks from our street, and we have to have a governor who's not going to just wag their finger at the left and say the crazy Democrats this, the crazy Democrats that. When are we actually going to confront the fact that in Florida, Republicans control the House, control the Senate, and control the governor's mansion? Anything that is wrong with our state right now cannot possibly be the result of the Democrats. It would be the result of squishy, feckless loser Republicans in our party. Loser Republicans who are trying to tone police our campaign and our supporters for saying that calling Byron Donald a slave is racist. How on earth could that be racist? He's a slave because he is controlled by other groups of people. And if he wants me to stop calling him a slave, I'm happy to do that if he gives back the $45 million to AIPAC and his hedge fund donors. And until then, I'm going to keep calling him that. Look, the days of identity politics from the left are over. The fear is that the right is now playing this new game, and Laura Loomer is doing it, and Byron Donalds is doing it, and all these other loser Republicans are doing it. They're trying to call us racist for simply stating facts. We will not be tone policed by the left, and we sure as heck will not be lectured by the right about our rhetoric.
Well,
Yeah, thank you for saying that, James. I've been a huge follower of your campaign. I live from Illinois, and I'm just so happy to finally see someone actually fighting for the America First movement and fighting against these special interests. I mean, my state's kind of cooked, and it's just so disappointing to see what happened with that Miami Beach mayor, literally sending out the goon squad to try to arrest someone for an innocent social media post. Like, if you don't win, Florida's literally going to become the next United Kingdom where you get thrown in a gulag for an innocent social media post. Like, you're not just fighting for Florida, because if Florida, which is supposed to be the free state of Florida, falls, the entire country is literally going to become the United Kingdom, where all of us get rounded up for a social media post. So you're basically fighting for the freedom of America here. Candidates like you, Casey Bush in Ohio. So you're literally fighting not for Florida, but for all of America. It's like we're all counting on you to win, and we're gonna do everything you can across this country to try to get you elected. We're gonna promote your content on social media because you're fighting for all of us against this establishment. Because Byron Donalds doesn't just represent a corrupt establishment in Florida; he represents a corrupt, woke Republicanism, where the Republicans now are just as woke as the Democrats. I've seen more cancel culture in the last 6 months from the right than I have from the left. The left has kind of just given up on cancel culture and has just let our own party implode from cancel culture because they refuse to let Gen Z and millennials take over, and they just want a bunch of boomers with old failed politics to keep running
well,
the ship.
there's something that I can agree on from everybody, that it is time for the geriatrics to get out of politics. I am tired of the geriatrics. The geriatrics. Chuck Grassley just came out and said that he doesn't support the SAVE Act. I mean, these are the people we need to get out of office, guys. So, in terms of where this campaign goes, I don't know, James. We'll see where it ends up for you. But regardless of what happens, and I say again that politics and primaries are my favorite season. So make sure if you're actually going to do it, if you're going to go spend the time and actually go out there and try and win, then I will watch the campaign closely. That's all I'll say about it.
He will win.
I'll give you just one statistic. In the last 7 weeks, we have done more in-person campaign events than all three of my opponents combined. We are actually playing for keeps. We are taking no prisoners. And I'll just end on this note. If the founding fathers were alive today and the Miami Beach mayor had done what he did to that woman over that so-called anti-Semitic post, our founding fathers would rightly call for his public execution. The First Amendment is clear. You are not to send the police knocking on people's doors for criticizing Israel or criticizing anyone. They fought and died for our right to criticize and to petition this government. Last time I checked, that applies to the depraved world leader known as Benjamin Netanyahu. And so enough with the games. I'm proud. By the way, I called that woman yesterday. I had a nice conversation with her. She's been living in Miami Beach for 15 years. She was in the National Guard from 93 to 99. She's a Democrat. I'm a Republican. But she and I think all of us agree that it doesn't matter where you stand on any particular issue. we as Americans have to protect free speech, because if we don't have that, we quite literally do not have a country. We might as well have Keir Starmer running us around, might as well turn over to the European Union if we allow people like the Miami Beach mayor. And I'll tell you right now, I'm calling on Ron DeSantis to immediately use his powers vested in Article 4, Section 7A of the Florida Constitution to suspend and remove that mayor from office. He is clearly in dereliction of his duty and an abuse of power to use the police, to use armed sworn officers to do Israel's bidding. Our founding fathers would have executed that man, and that is the truth.
James, is that mayor
James,
Jewish?
let me ask you.
Wait, one second, real quick here. AB, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, just and I agree. It's always inappropriate. Not about the execution. That's obviously ridiculously hyperbolic. But I agree. It's always inappropriate, no matter what a person's opinion is, no matter how popular or unpopular it is in America. It's inappropriate and wrong to send a police officer. Thankfully, nothing horrible happened to her. She wasn't arrested or anything. But there's no reason to even send anyone to her house. So I completely agree with that. And no one should do it in any part of America for any reason, no matter how dumb or smart or anywhere in between a person's comment is or question or anything else. Now, but don't you think possibly, James, you're running to take over from, I think most Republicans, most conservatives would agree, America's best governor, a man who's had sterling 7 years in office and now is trying to end off his term by getting a constitutional amendment on the ballot to abolish, property taxes for the primary residents, which is a phenomenal idea, and hopefully will get on the ballot and hopefully will pass. This is a man who, has had a military history, sterling, has a personally a sterling reputation as a human being, monogamous to his wife, young children, was an accomplished congressman, and took Florida from being a swing state with President Trump's help, undoubtedly, from being a swing state to being, one of the staunchest Republican states in the country. Meanwhile, you're going around and sort of trying to bring us back to sort of John Birch area. You lie about your resume. You said you were head of macro for a hedge fund. You weren't. You were a junior analyst. You were accused credibly of grooming someone in your own debate club while you were 26 and she was 16. You currently have. Let me finish my comment, and then you can respond. Let me finish my comment, please.
Let me take them one by one. Well, let me take them one by one.
You can take them all, but let me finish my comment, please. Let me finish my comment, right? You're also
AB, let him address.
Yeah, let him address. You just kind of laid him out there, so you got to let him address those issues. So go ahead, James.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So first off, I agree with everything you said about Governor DeSantis. I think he is clearly the best governor in the country and probably the greatest governor in Florida history. But I'm going to be very clear with you right off.
How are you a worthy successor to him? Exactly.
Okay. First off, let me just say something very clearly. When I said that our founding fathers would have executed the mayor of Miami Beach, I was not being hyperbolic. So this is what I'm talking about. I'm sick and tired of you loser Republicans trying to tone police me. Thomas Jefferson would have executed the mayor of Miami Beach for what he did last week. And second off, I'm not going to have you come here and tell me all the things that the fake news media. Are you the New York Times? Are you the CNN? Because you're parroting their talking points. When someone makes false allegations against me years ago, takes them to court, and I am fully exonerated, you no longer have a right to use those accusations, let alone to call them credible.
You were not fully exonerated, and the school board cut ties with you, and you were also not fully exonerated in your financial.
Okay, listen.
You were also not fully
guys,
exonerated in terms of the court dealings with your former employer, which has a judgment against you. The U.S. Marshals are currently looking for you.
Guys,
are they looking for me? They have my. They can come pick me up right now.
You have a mess of a personal life. You have a mess of a professional life.
Okay.
You said were you head of macro for your former hedge fund?
Hold on here, guys. We're gonna make sure that this is entertaining, to say the very least. But guys,
you're gonna lose by 40 or 50 points. I guarantee it right now.
Get this guy out of here.
AB,
this is wild.
So hold on a minute here. We need to have a response to the actual accusations here.
Loser Republicans. You are the loser Republicans.
Oh my God, AB, let him respond. AB, you got to let him respond to the comments. You can't just continuously cut him off. All right. You said a bunch of shit. You got to let him respond to the stuff that you said. So go ahead, James.
I just heard that AB, credible accusation. Somebody said he's gay. Anyway, continue, James.
So, look, if anyone wants to talk about experience, let me be very clear. and I'll just admit this, and maybe it's not in my best interest, but let me just admit this right here and let the media print it if they want. I do not have any political experience. I'm the only candidate who did not go to Congress for 5 years like Byron Donalds did and make $1.4 million trading stocks. I'm not like Jay Collins. I didn't pass a pesticide immunity bill. I am not Paul Renner. I did not pass a red flag law to strip the constitutional Second Amendment rights for young men in our state. So you're right. I don't have any political experience, AB. I concede that point. But if you want to come here and use talking points from NBC News, you better know the facts. If you're accusing me of evading the U.S. Marshals, well, why am I not in custody right now? If you're accusing me of all of these awful things,
You will be. You will be, my
I
friend.
will
You
be
will be very
when
soon.
okay, hold on. I am
AB,
okay.
calm down, AB. Let him finish up.
I'm sorry, AB. Do you have no faith in the United States Marshal Service, which is the longest running law enforcement agency in this country? I'm currently at the Canoe Creek Tesla supercharger. I just got here. The U.S. Marshals can come pick me up unless you yourself are lying to hurt a candidate.
Do you have any judgments against you in court right now? Yes or no?
I would take one.
Do you have any
Come on,
judgments against you in court?
AB, listen to me. You got to stop cutting him off. Let him talk. All right, go ahead.
AB, first off, I have no idea who you are. It's not your real name. My name is James Fishback.
It is my real name, and you don't have to know who I am. I have to know who you are, and I do.
So it is your real name or it isn't? Which one is it?
It is my real. It's a nickname, short for Abraham.
Oh, okay. So we know it motivates you then. Okay, thank you.
All right, guys, listen to me. We're not going to have a random
James,
fight.
what do you mean?
Hold on a second here, everybody. I just need a point of order here. This is the Political Theater, and this is a show, so I want to make sure people are aware of that here. When you're fighting back and forth on cross mic, everybody else that's listening across all of our other platforms is very confused. So please keep your hands up so we can actually do this properly, so we don't have to constantly have to redo this. Now, it's okay because I'm actually enjoying this. This is fantastic. You know, this is a good, this is a lively discussion, and I'm here for it. So go right ahead and respond briefly here, James. And then I have a bunch of other people that have their hands up. So go ahead, James.
And James, thank you for also being open and doing this as well.
Absolutely.
There's very few candidates that will come up and actually talk not only to people that are in their state and out of their state and go and talk to. I saw you at an elementary school or a middle school earlier talking to kids about education. I haven't seen any of your opponents do that whatsoever. So I do want to give you props, mad props for doing that, as well as going on various different streams. Obviously, I saw you on Sneeko's stream, Clavicula's stream. Obviously, you know Myron and all those guys as well. So I just want to give you absolute props for doing it. Not a lot of people will come up and just absolutely answer a hailstorm of questions, especially accusations. A lot of people will not even just say, hey, I'm just going to lay it all out there for you so you understand it. And AB, just FYI, make a point, let him rebut you, and then go back to him. So that way you guys are both on the same page and you get the answers that you're looking for. It's a much better way to go about a debate.
Well, thank you for that. And by the way, I encourage anyone running for Florida governor to join this space or any others and take unscripted questions for 20 or 30 minutes. That's what we should welcome. If you're not willing to hop on and talk directly with potential voters, then you're not worthy to serve as the next governor of Florida, first and foremost. Second, if anyone thinks that I've been accused of a crime, then I guess the question is, why am I currently not arrested? I mean, he thinks that the U.S. Marshals are after me. Well, then why haven't they arrested me? That's I guess, an obvious point there. But the last thing I'll say is what AB didn't do, and what the very few detractors to our campaign haven't done, is they've yet to criticize a single substantive idea my plan and my campaign has put forward, whether it's banning Blackstone from buying single family homes, ending the H-1B scam, enforcing a mandatory statewide uniform, and yes, charging Sophie Rain and all of the OnlyFans models a 50% sin tax. They don't seem to ever be able to criticize us on the substance. They resort to the same ad hominem identitarian attacks that the Democratic Party has trafficked in for years. Let's make this an actual debate about the ideas. And the ideas are that we have to stand with parents. We have to be able to protect our parents and protect our young people, which is exactly why it is utterly disgraceful that my opponent, Lieutenant Governor Collins, refuses to acknowledge his oldest son, Trey. He only says he has 2 sons on his website, on the campaign trail. He is a deadbeat dad, and anyone who refuses to acknowledge their own flesh and blood is in no position to be leading our state and trying to help young parents be able to get ahead, raise a family, buy a home, and when it's all said and done, retire with dignity.
James, if I may respond briefly, you're right. In terms of not responding to the substance, but a lot of people, on the Democratic and Republican Party, and you would agree with this, right, are silver-tongued, right? People who run for politics in general tend to be loquacious, tend to be, articulate, and they can promise all sorts of good things, right? The question is, what in your character, what in your background leads anyone to believe you will accomplish any of the wonderful things that you promise, right? Barack Obama, everyone would agree, terrible everyone on the conservative side would agree, or right-wing side, terrible president, quite well spoken, and was able to stand in a room and answer questions. He famously held court with Republican senators after he got elected about Obamacare, and answered questions from John McCain and everyone else. And I'm not complimenting John McCain either, but then he came out with the actual Obamacare plan, and we know what it was. It was a complete disaster, right? What I'm trying to say is, while your opponents, certainly all people and all politicians, have their flaws, nobody has James Fishback flaws. Nobody has your lack of experience. And the idea that you are critiquing others on wokeness and on identity politics when you've spent the time calling someone Byron Donalds, okay? It's not about political correctness.
He is Byron. He is Byron.
It's not about. I know.
He is
So
Byron.
I know you already said that. You already said that.
He is Byron. He is a slave. He's a
Wait.
slave.
Wait, really quick.
AB.
Hold on a second.
AB, what's the problem with having fresh faces in the government? That's part of the issue right now, is that we don't have new faces and we don't have fresh people in there, and we have the same old rhinos in there, and we can't get the same people out, and the same thing keeps on happening. Why not switch up the status quo and get somebody in there that we know is actually America first? I don't understand what the problem is here.
I completely agree, Jordan. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong. There's a lot right with having fresh faces, but the specifics matter. It's not just about fresh face or rhino or establishment. Is number one, are the plans good, and 1A, or equally important is,
I haven't heard, but that's the thing, AB Sampson. I haven't heard one bad thing that James is running on. Everybody in this entire world has had flaws. Every single person. As a matter of fact, as soon as James got on here, I had anonymous accounts start sending me stuff about his campaign manager. Dude, I don't care. I'm going based off of what he's talking about and what he's saying. Because then when he gets elected, then I can hold him accountable for those things that he's running on.
I respect that, buddy. If you move to Florida, and take a presidency, you can vote for who you want. But it also matters if a person's a bad person. James is a bad person.
Listen to me. Okay, look. So listen to me. I got to restore a little bit of order here. For one, guys, the ad hominem attacks does not do anything for me. Okay, like I just don't care about ad hominem attacks. Like that doesn't do anything at all for me. To me, the only thing that matters in any politics, okay, in any political scenario, is can you win? Okay, I don't care where you're. To be honest with you, everyone likes to talk about policy and all this stuff. That's not the answer to me. The answer to me is, do you actually have a real chance at winning the election? Because it is either whoever it is we have on the primary for the Republican side, which is why I like primaries in the first place. Primaries are good. Iron sharpens iron. I was always a huge fan of primaries. But the big part about that is at the end of that, you need somebody who can actually win an election. That's what matters to me more than anything else. Because if you don't, then the Democrats, like I said before, they will literally run a goldfish and they'll win the election. So that's just the way that I look. AB, shut up for a minute, AB. Listen to me, buddy. You can't just keep interrupting me when I'm up here talking. I know you haven't been on my show in a while, but this is a show, guys. This is not something. It's not just a space. And you remind everybody that we're broadcasting across like 7 different platforms right now. So just keep that in mind, because crosstalk doesn't really translate very well to everybody else. But again, to me, winning elections is all that matters, because we have one side, and regardless of what you think about whoever it is that you're running against, whether you like Byron, whether you like James Fishback, whether you like either of these people, is kind of irrelevant to me. Okay, it's who can win the election at the end of the day. Okay, if you can get the election, those people need to win that election, because the other option are literal communists who want to kill you. That's the other option. I got in this argument a bunch when people were talking about Winsome Sears in Virginia. Winsome Sears, despite what people thought about this woman, the reality is, look what you have now. Look what the result is. The result is now Abigail Spanberger, CIA extraordinaire. This woman has already passed so many laws in the first 24 hours of her being in office that is going to destroy the state of Virginia. Okay, so to me, the only thing that matters is, can you win the election? Can you actually win? Because you have to be able to win the election. You have to be able to beat the Democrats, because the other option is absolute communist lunacy. So again, I don't mind having the arguments about the debate on this, but ad hominem attacks about random things about people's lives or whether or not this is true or not and whatnot is just not useful to me. Okay, I need to get some other hands here. So I want to go to Max because Max has had his hand up and been waiting patiently. And then I've got another couple hands here. So go ahead, Max.
And Max is actually from Florida. So
oh, perfect.
Max, go ahead.
Okay, I'm looking at a headline. James Fishback ordered to turn over Azoria stock luxury items to pay $229,000 court judgment. Do you plan to pay this?
Hold on. Hold on. He's not here right now. So let's
I'll wait for him to come
reset really
back.
quick, and I'll try and get him back really quick.
I mean, he might be busy, but again, I don't know. Again, to me, when I look at this stuff, guys, what I talk about every time I'm looking at politics and any candidate is, at the end of the day, we need to win with whatever candidate ends up being on the Republican ballot, because your other option is lunacy. Lunacy, absolute insanity from the Democrats, okay? I mean, Abigail Spanberger, go look at what she just signed into law, people. Go look what she just signed into law. She has now signed in the most insane things into law within 24 hours of her being in office, looking like a freaking Bond villain signing laws. I mean, this is not good stuff, okay? Virginia is now going to become Eastern California. They doubled the Somali daycare fraud on day one, okay? I mean, this is the kind of stuff that awaits you if you do not actually get behind the candidate, no matter who the candidate is at the end of the day. The Republican candidate has to win, okay? Because your other option is not good. And I know the people that are like, oh, I don't want to hold my nose. Like, you don't get a choice. Okay, you get the choice of communist lunatic or whoever the Republican candidate is. Okay, those are your choices. Those are your only choices.
Right.
So okay, I'll just keep
right,
going
but
then.
as you noted, we're in a primary right now.
Hold on, guys. Hold on.
James is back.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Max.
Sorry,
Max is really quick. It's James is back. It's Max's floor. Max, just real quick. I don't know if you heard in the intro. I mean, there's obviously James has a different platform going on. He's clearly not friendly with Israel, but that's regardless. The take is, he's complimented DeSantis on some things. He's not complimentary on some other things. What do you think, Max, Florida resident? James is in the space. Do you have any questions about like policy or any of that stuff?
I'd like to know, so reading a headline, James Fishback ordered to turn over Azoria stock luxury items to pay $229,000 court judgment. Do you plan to pay this, yes or no?
Is that a question for me, Max?
It is a question. It is a question for James Fishback, yes.
No,
do you plan to pay it, yes or no?
No.
No. Okay.
I don't pay my billionaire ex-boss who was trained by George Soros. No, I'm not paying him a penny. He convinced a New York judge, the same one that sided against President Trump, that I have to pay him $5 million in legal fees. I'm not paying him a penny. And you can go tell the judge that himself. I don't care.
Okay. You said you were going to release your 23andMe results a month ago. When do you plan to release your 23andMe results?
When they get back to me.
When do you expect that?
I don't know. I don't work for 23andMe. When they send me them back, I will send them back.
Point of order here. I think it's insane that anyone would use 23andMe. You just hand your DNA over to
remember, Max is Max is a racial purist. He's an ethnic purist. He only wants a certain type of people to be in government.
That's just kooky stuff. No, I mean, Fishback's the guy. Fishback's the guy who left.
Then why would you insist it? Then why would you insist on it?
You're the one who bragged. You're the one who bragged. Fishback, listen. You're the one who says that Byron has a dark vision. Like,
Byron does have a dark vision. He does have a dark vision. He's a disgrace. He came from the ghetto. I want to send him back to the ghetto. And you can print that if you want. I don't care what you say, Max. You're a stupid, feckless Republican who's trying to tone police us. I and the rest of us are trying to save our country. And you're worried about me calling a black man Byron? Go join the Democrat Party, Max. Seriously.
Yeah, so your car wasn't repossessed. It was seized by U.S. Marshals. Whose car are you driving right now? And whose name is the title?
Max, I'm driving your mom's car right now. You want to talk to her?
I love this.
Your car wasn't repossessed.
Hold on, Max. Hold on. Just an FYI. Correct me if I'm wrong, James. You're actually being driven right now. I actually saw you do a video earlier, and he's on his way to a podcast. Okay, like, we got to stop with the attacks. You're talking about 23andMe and him being an ethnic purist, dude. Talk about policy. Talk about things that are actually gonna fix Florida.
Whoa, guys! All right, hold the hell up here. Calm down, everyone. Calm down. We are on the radio, so go ahead here. Let's go back and we'll get in.
So here's a policy question. So policy question is a policy to take money out of Florida's pension funds in order to create a new government spending program. Under what law authorizes you to do that?
So I've actually never said I was going to take money from the pension fund. What I've said is that it was ridiculous after October 7th, which was absolutely a tragedy and has been and should be universally condemned. It was ridiculous for the chief financial officer at the time, Jimmy Petronas, to send hundreds of millions of dollars to buy Israeli sovereign bonds, which were actually a terrible deal. They were only yielding 1/10 of a percentage point over US treasuries, even though they were in a country that was in the midst of a three-front war, with one of those fronts being with Iran, which is on the verge of having a nuclear weapon. So I think that's ridiculous that we would go lend $385 million to Israel. What I said, Max, is I would fully and proudly divest every single penny from every single foreign government that the state pension fund lends to. And because Israel is the only government that the stupid Republicans and Democrats lend money to, I'm going to bring back the full $385 million. Separate and apart from that, I'm going to create Rise and Shine, a statewide down payment assistance program to give young married couples a $10,000 down payment assistance check. The crazy thing, Max, is that you think it's controversial that I would want to take money from a foreign government that was sent there foolishly in the first place and actually use it to fight for families here in Florida. We should never have sent a penny, never have lent a penny to Israel, and I will proudly bring every single one home.
So this is two. So this is two distinct. What you're saying here is two distinct proposals, right? So many people interpreted what you said to be you're going to take that 380 million that is invested in sovereign A-rated bonds that return 5% yearly. You're going to take that. People interpreted it to be you're going to take that money and create a down payment assistance program. What you are actually proposing is a giant new government spending program.
Yeah.
To subsidize housing demand without building new housing, because you say you're against building new housing because Florida's full. Is that correct? Am I saying that correctly, Mr. Fishback?
Max, you can call me James, Max. Okay. Look, Max, I get that you love Israel. I get that you have no problem.
No, you have no answer. You have no answer to this because I asked you a specific question.
Yeah, well, you didn't
Am I
let him
correct
answer.
that you want to create a new government spending program?
Hey, order in the court here. Order in the court, everybody. No crosstalk. All right, one at a time. I understand that the concept here is not, so we just need to have a one-in-one back and forth here. So one person at a time. So go ahead.
He can't answer the question. He just says, "Oh, you love Israel." No, you want to create a new government spending program. Is that correct, Mr. Fishback? You want to spend $380 million to subsidize demand without building new housing. What's going to happen to housing prices, head of macro?
Well, you want to know what's going to happen to housing prices. Look, there's 1.4 million illegal immigrants in our state. They are constraining housing supply. I'm going to deport every single one of them by using the 287G program. I'm also going to challenge Arizona versus the United States, which was wrongly decided by the Supreme Court 10, 15 years ago. And I'm going to deputize state law enforcement to send back every single illegal alien, Max, including and especially you. If you love Israel so much, go back to Israel. I will proudly create a statewide government spending program so I can help young married couples buy their first home. I'm not going to have you say that we don't have money. We don't have money for our own people. We don't have money for families from Miami to Pahokee or Pensacola to Mariana, but we have money to send $300 billion to Ukraine for Zelensky to money launder and lose another war. We have money for $5 billion for Israel to bomb Gaza. Absolutely not. I will find the money and I will proudly create a new spending program that does help young people buy their homes. We're going to unleash housing supply by deporting every last illegal criminal in our state.
If you give money, if you don't do new housing, sorry, go ahead.
Clarification, really quick. Florida spent $5 billion on Israel. Is that what you're saying, or the United States?
No, I'm talking about the United States generally.
Because I feel like this continues to morph into like more of a federal issue versus a state issue.
Well,
when you're
okay, that's fine. I mean, we can bring it back to the issue of the $385 million. Max asked about the equilibrium clearing price of single-family housing in our state. He is right that if you were to simply incentivize down payment assistance without freeing up housing supply, that would create a shift in demand and a shift in the equilibrium price for single-family homes. But what I've also made clear is that by ramping up the pace of mass deportations, by using 287G, by overturning Arizona via the United States and actually deputizing state law enforcement to carry out federal immigration enforcement, that you do end up deporting the 1.4 million. And by the way, Max, the 1.4 million illegal aliens, they're not homeless. They're not living on the beach. They are living in single family homes in every single county in our state. And it's time for them to leave. That unleashes and reopens housing supply that working families will be able to buy into. That's not controversial.
Well, there's another problem with the general issue with having the amount of housing issue. The asylum people that have also come here have also been taking up housing, and specifically rent. If you go look in all of the different immigration issues across all of the states, the reason that rent has skyrocketed is because we have staffed all of our low-income rent housing with immigrants, which is a huge problem. And specifically in Ohio, there's a number of those issues happening here. These are things we do need to fix. We do need to fix it. And I do agree with the concept of actually deputizing and getting more illegals out as fast as possible. That is a good idea. It should be done. I mean, we need to have more deportations. And I do think that if you actually manage to deport more people, you would drive housing down. But the other thing that would drive housing down is take away their government benefits, which is a federal issue, though. That's part of the problem I have with some of this stuff, is that a lot of this stuff is federal stuff. If you actually manage to do this on a federal level, which would be much more effective, if you actually take away the money, that would be great. If you take away the government assistance, remove the ability for them to use government money to actually pay for the rent, which is what's happening in places like Ohio. Like the Haitian immigrants here, by the way, they get $1,400 a month from the government, plus they get free rent. So those are things that we should immediately remove. And that's stuff that, unfortunately, though, that's, again, federal.
Well, yes, it is, but we can't throw up our hands and say federalism this, federalism that, and not actually get the job done. So on this particular point, what you actually can do is you can do two things. You can tax remittances at the state level, and then separate and apart from that, you can actually levy a fine on every single foreign worker in the state. So if you're an H-1B or an H-2A worker, or you have TPS status and you have federal work authorization, DeConis versus California 1972 Supreme Court unanimously found that states actually can separately pursue immigration fines against the workforce. And I would proudly use that precedent to establish a fining system for any worker who is here on a foreign immigration visa. I believe that the American economy and the American jobs are for American workers. And if you're going to come here on an H-1B, we're going to tax you into oblivion to the point where you're just going to end up going back to India, because the labor arbitrage that you're taking advantage of between the third world and the first world, that we render that utterly meaningless.
Well, that's an interesting concept of doing remittances taxes at the state level. I've never even thought about that, because that's a good idea. One of the things I had an issue with in the big, beautiful bill is that they changed the remittances. So remittance taxes, they were trying to tax them. And the initial, by the way, if they speak, this one makes you a little bit angry for everybody else listening to this. Our Congress took the initial, which was 5% remittance tax, and reduced it to 1%, which drove me insane. I can't believe we did that in the first place. Remittances should be taxed at 40%. I mean, you shouldn't be able to send money out of the country generally. But the reality is now we also know that a lot of these remittances are being done in cash in undeclared bags of Somali cash that are leaving the Minneapolis airport. So these are things that I think, the state level would actually have some enforcement over top of some of this stuff, which is actually good. So I like some of these ideas. These ideas actually make sense to me in terms of taking care of the immigration problems. And I agree that there is a lot more that states can do, especially, well, the other part of it is that you would actually probably have the support of the federal government to be able to do some of those things. Now, in terms of actually who can actually get them done, I don't know, because I think to get a remittance tax done, that would have to go through the Florida legislator, and getting the Florida legislator to tax some remittances. I don't know, maybe they would be for it. I'm not sure how popular that would be, but that'd be something that'd be interesting.
Well, I should think it'd be deeply popular. And I'll tell you this, your job as governor isn't simply to sign things that come across your desk. It's to pick up the phone and make a clear, convincing, persuasive case for a particular policy set. If I were to go to any county in Florida, whether it's Leon, Jackson, Hernando, or Henry, I could make a clear case to Republicans and Democrats that if you're on government assistance and you're sending a single dollar back home to your so-called homeland, that you are disqualified for government assistance. And I'll tell you the truth. I mean, I grew up in a largely Hispanic community where I was living in Davie, Florida. I had friends who were on government assistance, on SNAP, on food stamps, and those families were sending hundreds of dollars to South and Central America every single month. So it can't be the case that you so desperately need food stamps that your kids are going to starve, but in that same month, you're sending $400 back home to Guadalajara. And so actually, the administration of SNAP benefits occurs at the state level, even though it's funded by the federal government. And so you could change the requirements there to exclude anyone. You just audit, right, their financials and say, hey, to qualify for this particular government welfare program that's administered by the state but funded by the feds, that you have to turn over bank records of 90 days. If there's any evidence of a Western Union transaction or any offshore transfer, that would immediately disqualify you.
Well, there's something there's something important there. So this would actually lead into, for those who are not aware, since there's a lot of people on this show that have probably never been here before, a lot of what I do is the investigative part of the fraud investigation. So the Hollywood Trading Network is something should be probably brought up, and you guys could talk about this in Florida. I'm sure it happens there. It happens everywhere. The Hollywood Trading Network is essentially the way that they're transferring money over state. And you mentioned Western Union. Well, they're not using Western Union. They're using Somali Mule Union, essentially. They literally fly the cash out of the country in bags. That's actually something that happens through the Hollywood Trading Network, which is something that should be addressed. And I think it should be addressed in every state, not just in, where I'm looking at it. I think it should be done everywhere, because part of what I'm going to be doing for investigating across the country, I'm going to be traveling around finding these places and figuring out how to shut it down. So that's something that should be brought up in Florida, because I guarantee you it's happening there. When you mention the concept of them sending money out, well, if you have any East African population that's there, they can't actually wire money directly out of the country. What they can do, though, is they use it through a Hollywood Trading Network. A Hollywood Trading Network is essentially, they go there and they say, I wire you cash, and then those two brokers at some point settle the cash later. So it's a way that it keeps it out of our banking system and keeps it out of the wire transfer system, so you don't even know that it's really happening. Something that should be shut down everywhere, and it's something that should be addressed by every single state. So if you're talking about how to get rid of remittances and get rid of cash flowing out of the country, especially if it's taxpayer fraudulent cash, that's something that you should probably think about and talk about, because that's worth mentioning.
Well, as a matter of fact, Walter, the good news is that there's already a proposal for this upcoming I should say, session of the Florida legislature to not only tax remittances to go better, to actually prevent by Florida law, illegal aliens from sending cash remittances overseas at all.
That's good. That's good stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, I will say that there's, by the way, specifically on the point of remittances and all this money going out, by the way, Scott Bessent and the Trump administration have already come out and said that if you're now on government assistance, you can't send money out of the country, which is good. That's stuff that needs to happen in the first place. But they're also going to start going after the amount of cash that you can fly out of the country. They've already started to restrict that, and they're already seizing undeclared cash from the Minneapolis airport. That happened yesterday. So this stuff is changing, and I think the fraud investigation is crucial to that. So anyway, I just wanted to bring these points up here as we were talking about this.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Max.
Yeah, so Governor DeSantis has authorized funding for Jewish day school security. Head of Macro Fishback, would you continue this as governor?
I would do one of two things.
Would you continue this as governor?
No, I would not. I don't believe in selectively applying funding to certain religious institutions. That violates the Equal Protection Clause of the U.S. Constitution. Either all religious schools get funding or no religious schools get funding. I support the Second Amendment, which allows anyone to take up arms to defend themselves and their loved ones.
Okay. All right. We got some other hands. And we also brought up Sally. I don't know if does Sally have her hand up? We'll definitely go to Sally if she does. Sally?
I don't have my hand up yet. I've just been listening to these arguments back and forth, trying to figure out the best line of questioning. But I'll put my hand up in just a minute.
That's
no
okay.
worries, Sally. I just didn't want to skip over you.
That's okay. By the way, guys, before we move on, we're here. Make sure you guys share the space out. This is the Political Theater. I'm Walter Kurt. I got Jordan Daly and Chris Marino as my co-hosts here. Guys, if this is an independently run show, weeknights at 9, we're here every night. Thank you guys for showing up here. If you guys want to support this show, go to my page. You can go to wcdispatch.com, or you can subscribe right here on X. But all of us up here usually have subscriptions available if you want to support this show. Okay, so I do have other people up here with hands up. Some people have been waiting very patiently. So let's go to, I think it was Andy Fromell first, and then we'll go to, what's the other one? They had this, I can't see the name on it, the Santa hat.
Choose. It's a
Yeah,
choose.
I'll take the last question. So go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, again, James Fishback is the only candidate that's actually fighting for Florida and America. You had Byron Donalds, who literally said, "Oh, we need to crack down on police brutality. We have to get justice George Floyd." Like Byron Donalds 4 years ago was literally pushing all the Democratic talking points, and it's completely tiresome. And now he's literally trying to say he's America first, and then he's literally tweeting, "We need to give all our money to Israel, whatever Israel wants." And he's literally pushing to fight foreign wars. No, we should not go to war with Iran. No, we should not cause a regime change that causes that country to collapse into civil war and then a bunch of refugees to go into Europe and America. Because want to know what's going to happen when a Democrat takes over, possibly in the next election? Then those refugees are going to be coming right here to the United States. And then there's going to be nothing we can do about it with a Democratic president if that unfortunately happens. So, and that's what Byron Donald supports. He supports these regime change wars. He supports our tax dollars doing a regime change for Israel. That doesn't serve the American interest.
So here's the only issue I have with statements like that is that the Florida governor would have no input on whether or not we have a regime change in those states.
Okay, yes, that is a fair point. But James Fishbeck, for example, believes in divesting the Florida state bonds from Israel, the 300.
Well, listen, divesting the state investments, if that's a feasible and actually good financial decision, I don't, whatever is the best financial decision for taxpayers' dollars, wherever they're invested, is the best decision. I don't care what they do. If it's take them out of Israel and that's not good investment, then that's good. Do that. If it's not a good decision, then don't do that. Whatever makes the most money with that money is the best thing to do with the sovereign fund in that scenario. So I don't really care what the best decision is, so long as it makes the state money. Because that's your responsibility as the fiduciary duty there.
Well, the head of macro said that he said that Israel bonds actually do have a higher return, but he wants to get rid of them anyway. And then,
allow me, Max, as the head of macro.
Bonds yield just went up to 4%, so maybe that would be a good investment.
So, yeah. So, I mean, look, what if Hamas bonds were yielding 7%? Does that make it a good investment? What actually matters is two things: is risk-adjusted return.
No, that would be you breaking the law as usual.
Hey, don't interrupt people. Come on, go ahead, James. Now.
So if Max knew anything about finance, with all due respect, I am the head of
If you knew anything about finance, you wouldn't owe hundreds of thousands of dollars to your former employer that you're promising not to pay. Let's be fair here. Like, you're running for governor because you don't have any option. You're not employable in finance anymore.
Oh my goodness, guys! Listen, guys,
you became a punchline in 2024.
Guys, we can't have the arguments in interrupting of people, okay? If you're going to say stuff, the person has to be able to respond to them. And you said something, so go ahead and finish responding, James. And then we do have other hands, so I can't just constantly have the fighting back and forth. The fighting is entertaining,
I just want to say one thing. All of you guys are very well, and you guys all know decorum. You guys have been on me and Walter's spaces, every single one of you before. You know it's one at a time. Just do it. Be men about it. Holy.
Okay. Go ahead and respond, James, briefly here, and then we need to go to other hands. Go ahead.
So there's two things. The first of which I want to thank Andy for his kind words, but I also want to correct the record that state governors can't do anything about foreign wars. We actually can. So the Florida National Guard, we can pass a law in the legislature that prevents the deployment of the Florida National Guard in active combat zones overseas, to restrict that to only overseas theaters that have been congressionally authorized. And that's exactly what I would do. I'm not going to allow the Florida National Guard to be sent to a foreign country where there has not been an explicit congressional declaration of war. I am with Thomas Massey 100%. If you want to send our men and women in uniform to fight a war, you have to have a real debate on the congressional floor, and you have to have a congressional vote in both chambers. So absolutely, the Florida governor does have control over that, because the Florida National Guard is well within the purview of the Florida legislature and the executive office. Now, to the point about Israel for just a moment, in finance, we think about something called risk premium or risk-adjusted returns. If Israeli bonds were yielding the same amount of return as a U.S. Treasury, they would be a far worse deal. If they were yielding even 1% or 2% more, they would also still be a bad deal, for the very simple reason that there is currency risk and geopolitical risk. The currency risk is that Israeli bonds, the Israeli economy, is denominated in shekels. The American economy is denominated in the dollar. So there's a conversion factor there that needs to be taken into account. And then for just a moment, there's the fact that Israel, unequivocally, whether you're pro-Israel or skeptical of Israel, Israel is involved in at least 3 geopolitical conflicts right now, with Iran, with Lebanon, and with Hamas. It does not make any sense from purely an objective financial standpoint to send $385 million to a country, even if they have a slightly higher nominal yield, because when you adjust that yield for the geopolitical risk on offer, hence 3 geopolitical fronts at any given time, it's a terrible return. And that's to say nothing about the moral repugnancy of Benjamin Netanyahu and the terrible optics of taking our hard-earned money and sending it to a foreign country. I want to be very clear. I'm opposed to lending any foreign country, Israel, Russia, Sweden, even our friends in Australia. I would not, as Florida governor, authorize any of our hard-earned money to be lent to any foreign government, with no exception.
Okay, let's go to the other hands here. We have Choose. Choose, go ahead.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Got a lot of friends up in here. Appreciate that. James, it's good to talk to you for a second here. Just a kind of a crazy thing I noticed. Max has a literal pager in his display name, so James, if you see that pager on your display name, run. Max clearly would put it there. So,
guys, hold on a minute. I need to bring this up. I don't mean to interrupt you there, Choose, but I need to bring this up. Apparently, Air Force One is returning after some issue in air while on its way to Dallas.
Electrical issue. I looked into it.
Yeah, I just looked at this just a second ago. Look, that's pretty interesting, though, that it looks like it's just a couple minutes ago that they say that Trump is not going to Davos right now. It looks like it's returning, which is interesting. So I just wanted to bring that up. I don't know what the deal is with that. They say minor electrical issue. Not sure how minor electrical issue happens in Air Force One, but, just wanted to bring that up because that's new news that just came out just a couple minutes
The
ago.
747 is old as hell.
I
The
know.
Doomsday plane runs better than that thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is why everyone was so upset about us buying that like Qatari jet or whatever the hell it was. I was like, I mean, if it's newer, then I don't care. Like, apparently that thing was like what did they call it, the Palace of the Skies or something like that. I mean, it didn't matter to me. I don't care where we get the jet from as long as it's working. But anyway, so I just wanted to bring that up. That was news that just came out just a moment ago.
Just note that everybody had a problem with that, but everybody will get on an Airbus plane, and where are those from? Those aren't from America. So let's just be honest there. But we'll continue with hands. Also, I have one as well, James, and trust me, it's pretty straightforward. AB Sampson, go ahead and try and make it
wait a
one
minute.
point at a time.
I cut Choose off, so I wanted him to be able to finish speaking.
Okay.
Go ahead, Choose.
Go ahead, Choose.
Yeah, geez, Jordan. I'm just a little guy here.
Love you, man.
All good. No, I wanted to ask you because we talked about immigration a bit and deportations. You mentioned the National Guard as well, with foreign wars. So I wanted to ask you what your thoughts were on deportation. I know Beaver's got Somali scan, which is great. I'm loving that. But for illegals and for people who are here on visas that have expired, logistically, how would you make that work in Florida to get as many people out as possible? Would you bring in the National Guard? What would that look like if you were governor?
So it's a really good question. I think there needs to be two things. There needs to be a ramp up of what are called kinetic deportations, which is state law enforcement authorized under 287G so they can carry out federal law enforcement duties. We need to ramp that up. But I think what we need to do in a bigger sense is actively disincentivize illegal aliens who are already here. So in 1982, the Supreme Court found disastrously in Plyler v. Doe that illegal immigrant children have a, quote, constitutional right to attend public schools. Just like Roe v. Wade was disastrously decided, so was Plyler v. Doe, and it can be overturned. You just need a governor to stand up and say, you know what? All of a sudden, we're going to start unenrolling tens of thousands of illegal immigrant children in our school. And I've said on day one, I would sign an executive order to authorize the Department of Education under the commissioner that I would choose to immediately unenroll tens of thousands of illegal immigrant children from our schools. All of a sudden, when the free daycare that is our public school ends for illegal immigrant families, they then have an active incentive to just get up and leave. Take the free flight from Kristi Noem, take the $1,000 check, go back to your country and make it great. We cannot have you using taxpayer resources. So I think there's two things just to come full circle. An increase in kinetic deportations. I'd also want to challenge Arizona v. US, which was, again, wrongly decided in 2012. It was a 5-3 decision. I think it'll end up being rightly decided before this Supreme Court. One of the many blessings that President Trump gave us was a consistent conservative bench, 5-3, 5-4, 6-3, depending on how Amy Coney Barrett is feeling on any given day. But I think the bigger thing is, aside from the kinetic side of deportations, how can we use the state power to essentially kick illegal immigrants off of every single social service? And perhaps the biggest social service is the fact that the average student in Florida, could cost the district $20,000 to $30,000. That means illegal immigrant children are costing the district $20,000 to $30,000. If you're a family and you have 5 or 6 children, you're here illegally, all of a sudden, them getting kicked out of public school is a real issue for you. You have to pay up in a private school, and you're probably more likely just to go home. And so if you look at the deportation numbers from 2025, about 75% of them were actually self-deportations. I think the way forward is to create an active framework that disincentivizes and deters people from staying here, and then they show themselves home.
That is actually the exact way that I've been talking about deportations. For those who are new on this show and don't know anything about me, my family built the modern immigration filing system. So I know a lot about deportation, I know a lot about immigration. and specifically to this issue, the way that the best way to get people out of the country is self-deport. That's the best way. And part of the reason for that, everyone talks about like, oh, let's just get rid of 10 million people tomorrow. That's actually not good. If you got rid of 10 million people tomorrow, if you suddenly just magically snap your fingers, you would crash the local economies in each one of the places those people exist. The Democrats knew what they were doing when they brought people here. They knew if they got them here and they got them installed in the economies and let them stay here for a couple of years, that it was difficult to get rid of them. So if once you actually get them out of here, you need to be able to move them out of there faster. But the best way is to disincentivize them staying here in the first place, which is completely cut all benefits and make them do. This is something the Trump administration, I got to give them credit here, they've done a good job with this, is that they essentially believe now that, at any moment, a helicopter could arrive and people could rappel from the helicopter, go through your window, and then throw you into an alligator pit. That is good. We need more of that, and more in disincentivizing of being here illegally. You should be afraid to be in the country if you're here illegally because you should be deported. That's what should happen. So more incentives, any incentivizing to get people out of the country, change the incentive structure. If you're here and you're getting federal money and you're getting support and all that crap, obviously you're going to want to stick around. But I don't think we should do that. I think we should take every aspect, every single part of anything to do with illegal immigration and make sure that it's as difficult and as uncomfortable as possible to be here, because then you'll leave on your own. And the more people that self-deport, that's actually much better for the country. The more people that are actually self-deporting out of here, that's a good thing for the country, because then the local economies adjust naturally to them as they leave. That's what we want. We want more of that. So that is good.
Yeah, and just one quick follow-up, because you mentioned education. One of the things that I'm up here in Wisconsin, it's going to be -3 degrees up here. It's going to be pretty cold, unfortunately. Not like sunny Florida. But one thing that is a big topic up here in Wisconsin with education is charter schools and school vouchers and school choice. So is that something that you're for? I don't know what it's like in Florida.
Florida already has it.
Oh, well, never mind then. Thank you.
Yeah, my kids went. I lived. My kids went to school in Florida. They actually have a really good education system, which is back to the basics. They didn't do Common Core. They actually did, standard arithmetic. And when I had to relocate back to Kansas City, my kids literally had to relearn what they learned the prior year in Florida schools. But they were a grade older here in Kansas City. Well, not in Kansas. It's a suburb of Kansas City. It's actually a really good school district, but not as good as Florida schools. So.
Well, thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. And thank you, James, for answering the questions, and Walter and Jordan. Appreciate you guys.
Yep, thanks for cutting up your shoes.
Walter, are we continuing to go? How are we looking on time?
Walter and Jordan, could I jump in real quick? I've had my hand up.
Yeah.
Really, one quick second.
One moment
Walter,
here. We're fine on time in terms of me. So what I'm going to end up doing is, because the live show version is already over by like 15 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the live video version of the show, guys. So everyone who's supporting on the live video version, if you guys want to continue hanging out in the space, we're going to keep the show open, guys. This is the Political Theater. Everyone who joined here, thank you guys for being here. We will be back tomorrow night on the live video version. We'll probably be on 9. I'm probably going to do just video tomorrow, because tomorrow is going to be, I'll be in DC. Jordan and I are going to be in DC tomorrow together. So we'll probably do something then. We'll do a live video version then, but that's probably what we're going to do there. In terms of tonight, if you guys are on all the other platforms, YouTube, Substack, Rumble, wherever you guys are listening to us right now, if you guys want to hide over to X, we're going to keep the space open. And I appreciate everyone who showed up here tonight. Thank you guys. And the show is going to continue on and on X.com. So you're going to go to X.com, go to @WC Dispatch, and you can join the show. You can chime in yourself. We have a ton of requests, and we have a ton of people in line to be able to come up here and talk. I'm trying to get through as many people as we can. So we're going to keep the show going, but I appreciate everyone who watches the video version of the show, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Thanks, guys.